north of Orlando in Florida is super country, and
Yes.
anything south is like nowhere.
It's a different
So
state.
I was driving to New Orleans with my brother and a friend to see WrestleMania, and we stopped in Baghdad, Florida, because we were stopping at the Walmart to get like food and supplies and shit. I like how I say supplies, like we're fucking at the general store because we're on the Oregon Trail. But you know, we're getting things, and we pull up, and we're looking at like there's the Confederate flag in the back of this truck. There's a thin blue line in the back of this truck. I was like, all right, my brother has long hair, and our friend has dyed blue hair, and he's not wearing shoes, and I look like I do, so we might not fit in perfectly. Um, and we were telling our friend this. He's like, I'm sure it's fine. It's just Walmart. It's nowhere. As he opens his door, a car honks its horn and plays
Yes.
on its car horn. It played the Dixie song from the Dukes of Hazzard car
Damn.
That's awesome.
on its car horn. And as we go into this Walmart, I've never felt so much intense hatred for people who are like, those guys aren't
You ain't
rednecks.
from around here, boy.
Yeah, just automatically. Like, they were popping their heads out of the aisle. Like, people were putting down produce to look at us. I was like, all right,
They
well,
got people clothes on.
I've got way too many tattoos. I'm just going to cover these up. I don't feel like getting hung.
But that's like around like Yeehaw Junction and stuff.
I
Like,
think
literally.
growing up in the South, you get less fazed by that kind of shit in general. When
Yeah.
I was like 15,
Sadly.
16 years old, he's a guy you might know. Some of you guys might know. Anybody know Josh Hayden?
Yeah.
Josh Hayden and I were really tight when we were in little kids, like in high school. I think our first band was together and stuff like that, both of us. And we ran away from home. He was having problems at home. I was having problems at home, and we run off. And we
RUNNOFT.
Yeah, OFT, and we went to Arkansas. But on our adventures, we stopped in Louisiana, we stopped in Mississippi, and we had blue mohawks, and we were, man, we learned a lot. We learned a lot on that trip. Many felonies that I don't know the statute of limitations were committed
Perpetrated.
allegedly. So
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Allegedly.
Yeah, we
Allegedly.
took 1984 Datsun across the South with like $200 in pocket change, and fucking we grew up a lot. We grew up a lot that summer or what have you. But yeah, man, you learn in the South, I think, really young that like you're gonna hear a lot of crazy shit from people, regardless.
You're gonna hear a
of
lot
what
of hate.
Yeah,
You're gonna hear a lot of hate.
and
it sucks
casual.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard a kid my age drop the N-bomb was in like elementary school. I think it might have been like 5th grade, and it was this fat Italian kid, and he was calling a black kid it, and I knew what it was because I had heard it before, probably on like television, like heard my parents talk about it. So I was aware that it was a terrible thing. You never say it. And the first time I heard it, just him say it, and then just keep talking like it didn't just come out of his mouth.
Casual,
I was just blown away. And I went home and talked to my dad about it, and he was like, yeah, it's son, unfortunately, people aren't always great and blah, blah, and the best you can do is just let folks know that's not you and try and better educate, maybe, if you can reach out to them and be like, why do you have to say that? Why do you feel the need to do that? And yeah, a lot of times it's fruitless. Trying to teach people who hate not to hate is tricky. But if you can just do your best to show the world that that's not you and that doesn't represent who you are, then you're doing something. Saying nothing is the worst thing. Like letting it just slide past.
Yeah.
And I've gotten my ass kicked. Like I've heard now this is way grown up. This is in my early 20s. Some rednecks in the back of a truck, and this is in like suburban Wellington, which is a fancy foo-foo frozen yogurt Chipotle type of place. Dude's at a gas station yelling horrible shit to this lady pumping you gas in her car. And I told him to fucking shut up, and they hopped out of the truck. We got in a scuffle. I got my ass kicked, but I was not going to not say anything.
Right.
Because if you just let that shit slide, they're going to be like, no one's ever going to say anything to me. I'm bulletproof.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You should always call out,
Dude,
whether it be racism or anything.
Or just this guy on the internet.
Yeah.
Just this guy on the internet. But can I tell you guys something? I grew up in Northern California. I didn't even think people spoke like the way, well, I'll just say like that they do on BET. Like I didn't think that was real. I thought that was all like TV. Like that's how like white and Northern California that I lived in. Like I
Dude,
just
that
everybody spoke the same. It didn't matter like
Right.
what color you were or like where
Right.
you were from really even. Like everybody that lived in Northern California just spoke the same. Like the best I got was like I was born in like the same town as the Diaz brothers, so like when I was like growing up, like I heard a little bit of like Spanish accent, but then like we moved to like all like I lived in the good part, the one good part of that town.
NorCal.
Yeah, like no, I lived in the one good part of Stockton. Stockton's like the armpit of
Oh
Yeah.
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 of Northern California. Like, and we lived in like the one really nice part, and then we moved like north to like the multi-million-dollar like elementary schools and shit. Like, so like
I think where
really
you grew
like
up is such a big part of that. Like you're talking about hearing the N word for the first time in that light. Like,
I didn't. I know. I never. I didn't hear
well,
that
not you. I'm talking about Patrick. Like,
at all, though.
for
I've
me,
never
I
heard
heard it
somebody out
in
loud outside,
like,
but
but
once.
growing up where mostly Black and Latino people live, like where I grew up, especially in my pre-high school, like everybody said it, and everybody said it to each other, and everybody said it in a friendly way. So it was to move up to West Palm Beach was the first time that I heard it in a racist way.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, what the fuck? That landed different.
Yeah.
Like that had a whole different like.
You hear that hard R. You hear
Yeah,
that.
the
You hear
hard
that
R.
venom in the word, man.
Cuban
Right?
kids say it to each other, and Black kids say it to each other, and everybody, like growing up in Miramar, Miami Springs, Hialeah, everybody said it.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
nobody, there was never a racist connotation to it until in like the end of junior high, beginning of high school, I moved to West Palm, and it was like, oh, what? That's you go out to like Royal Palm or wherever, you know what I mean? People were having
Yeah, that's where I lived.
bonfires and
I
shit.
dude, I grew up in Royal Palm, and what's funny is that we were talking about how neutral South Florida accents are, and it's true because I don't really have one. And so people are disarmed because they're like, well, they don't have country accents, they're not going to be
And
racist.
then boom.
Yeah.
And then boom, here it comes,
'Cause
just
you're
out of
still
some
in
dude
Florida.
dude, just a guy in Sperry's and a polo outside of an Applebee's talking about it, about like one of the people he saw today or somebody he saw on TV, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like that just slipped out of your mouth after you ate some apps.
Right, now imagine this. You guys are dealing with it from like someone saying it to you thinking that you're the same as them, right? They'll say their heart and think that
Yep.
you're going to go, oh yeah, I agree with you. Now imagine if you're a Black person, like I've been out here 8 years and I've hung out with people and then all of a sudden they've just gone on some racist shit and you're like, especially because having this accent as well, they just assume, oh well, you're different from Black Americans.
Like,
That's like a weird, different kind of racism
Yeah,
too.
it's so
One
strange.
of the
And it's
good
like-
ones, they'll say.
Yeah,
Or
I
like
hate that.
with
I
me,
hate
I've
that
been told
shit.
so many
Yeah,
times like you
and
don't
it's
seem
like-
Latino at all. And it's
You're
like,
not like them. You're so eloquent. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay.
And it's
Whoa.
like, I have to admit, living out here, one thing that I noticed, and this is not kind of disparaging anything that you guys have said here, but one thing I've always noticed out here is that people will always make sure you know that you're different. Whether it be you're Black, whether it be you from a different country like me, from England, but they'll always remind you that you're not from here.
Yeah.
I think with Florida specifically,
Yeah,
especially because
that's
everybody's
one thing
not
I've
from
noticed
there.
out
That's
here
kind of like
is that they'll always remind you that you're not one of us.
But that's kind of a big
someone.
part of the culture. You've got this different thing in Florida where there's a lot of people who are locals, and then there's generations of people who it's like their grandparents came from. So there's not as many people who are Floridian multiple generations or whatever. I think that's a weird thing about Florida where everyone's from somewhere else. Everyone's from a
Born and raised, baby.
You
see
see
what
what
I'm
I'm
Good for
saying?
you.
I was born in Florida as well. I might have this accent, but I was born here.
Right on.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually. Look at me,
Yeah.
finding new stuff out.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. We are an unfortunately xenophobic state.
That's
We
the
are.
only thing that I found so weird living out here is that you'll always be reminded that you're different.
Yeah.
And it's not just me. Like I'll see people do that to other people. Like whether I go to like respectables or wherever to a bar or something, they'll always let someone know that you're not from.
Yeah, I mean, the
You're
minute
different.
someone from like North Carolina talks with their North Carolina drawl, someone's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And then
Right.
that becomes a thing. Like,
Yeah, and that's one thing I hate about that out here, though. I think that's just like it's annoying.
Isn't it interesting too, though? The context in which that comes up really shows you, like, tells you a lot about how that interaction is going to be. Because some people, it's like a genuine. You can feel when it's like a genuine interest, and they're "Oh, that's fucking cool" or whatever. Tell me about where you're from,
right?
Or like the opposite of where it's like a strange passive aggressive kind of like jab.
Oh, you're from there, so wow.
Yeah.
You're not gonna say something racist, are you? I'm like, do you realize the way you just said it's kind of offensive?
Yeah.
Like.
No, that's fucking true.
But I
and you know, one of the oldest
all the time for fun.
Well, one of the oldest things people do, one of the oldest things is if anyone is from Mississippi or Arkansas or whatever, one of those like real southern states, it's like, oh, you're gonna date your cousin, that whole thing, and you're, you know, that's another stereotype. But we all love it so much as a joke because it's such a rich source material.
Sure.
That is.
But we all know as people from the South, that's just Alabama.
But and here's another thing too. If you look at like Pornhub analytics.
Oh man!
Like nobody has a right to make fun of anybody from anywhere that like fucks.
Oh
their
yeah,
sister.
can we talk
because,
about
like,
how
mother,
stepsister, stepmother,
not even like it's
not much porn I got
veering
listened to
towards
on mute.
stepmother, but like it for like 5, 6, 10 years, man. It was just straight up mother, sister.
Like
like aunt, like direct, not like stepmother, step aunt. Or anything like that. Like, that's kind of what it's veering to now. Like, I feel like that's more like covering the nation's tracks, but of porn, right?
They're just throwing step in there now. They're changing the title.
But because it was strong.
The best ones are the ones where it's like not sister.
That was
brother
that was like that was pre then they just got rid of the not. They're like, fuck it. We're not even gonna hide. It's wincest. That's all it is.
You know,
wincest.
You guys look like three dudes who jerk off, so I'm sure that you go to your Pornhubs, your Xtubes, your RedTubes.
Yeah.
And can you remember in the last 5 years, anytime you've gone to that first page and not seen one of the top 3 videos have the word stepsister in it?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, like it's
so, like,
and now what I find myself doing is when I look at it, I'm like, stepsister. I mean, that's weird, but then I'm like, that actress is very attractive.
Yeah.
And then you watch
so
you watch a little preview and you're like, I kind of want to see the rest of this. So, I'll just mute it. I'm fine.
I actually have a question that somehow I didn't get fired from like a pharmaceutical company when I asked like the whole office, but like it divided the whole office. Is it gross to see twins, so like sisters from the same mother, like go at it together, and there's also a guy in there sometimes? Is that
I think
okay?
It's gross.
I can't get over it because they're sisters.
They're blood related. I would
related.
not be into it. I would not be into it.
That wouldn't bone me up.
And it was literally like 50-50. The guys were like, "Oh yeah, man, it's hot." I'm like, oh, "What do you mean it's hot? You're watching incest."
Yeah.
So many guys. There are so many dudes that if you put them in a box and let them think that they were perfectly safe from all judgment for the world, and they went to a porn site, I guarantee you they'd be like twins, sisters, like right away. And even if the thing said blood-related sisters mugging each other, they'd be like, all right, I'm gonna click this. I'm gonna save it.
Let me ask you this: who's wrong in that situation? Is it the dude that's knocking one off on the sisters, or is it the sisters actually doing it?
I think they're
the
all
dude getting
bad.
involved. Yeah, they're equally culpable.
They're all participating in incest.
Right.
There's no one
to it.
You don't do more or less incest when you do incest.
There's
like,
no high
you don't
road
just get
there.
to you don't just get to dip your finger like I'm just gonna have a little spoonful just as a treat.
There's no moral
Once you
high
put that
road.
spoon in the incest pie, you're eating the whole pie. All right. You might be licking it throughout the whole night, but by the end of that night, you're like, oh, there's nothing left. I guess I ate the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
and you're talking to a guy that like when he was 14, I walked in on my dad like basically watching Mr. Hands, which is like the horse fucking a dude.
Yo, I'm familiar with Mr. Hands.
Like,
yeah,
they wouldn't know.
Hands.
Yeah. Or like
you guys are normal? Or?
Yeah, they're normal.
Wow.
Yeah.
How impressive. You don't know
like
what Mr. Hands is.
I unfortunately know about Mr. Hands
Yeah,
and
like,
BME Pain Olympics
all
and all the
that
horrors
shit, right?
of the internet.
So like I saw that shit, like my dad would be like, "Oh, look at this shit, it's funny," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And like I don't think that stuff is as gross as like twins just making out, like sisters making out. Like I can't get that out of my brain. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And it
No, it's
goes
just
on for so
uncomfortable.
long, and I get really
it's
disgusted.
uncomfortable, I'll give you that.
Because a dude getting fucked to death by a horse, you're like, oh, people are disgusting. Like, that shit,
It's like horror
it's like,
at that
you
point.
look at
Is
those
it
girls
dude
and you're
get
like,
fucked by a
what?
horse?
He's
Yeah.
Where,
fucked
how,
to death.
why? Who did what to you that made you think this is okay? Like, you start to unravel who those people are in your head.
Right.
The guy that got fucked to death by a horse, you're like, oh, I know who that guy is. Like, that's fine.
He's the
good.
reason
That's
why.
probably good that he died like that. Like, you go right to that place immediately.
Yeah.
Well, the reason it's so disquieting for a lot of people, and this is something I've talked about before with some of my friends, is that the reason you click it and the reason you even watch it at all is because there's a small part of you that is deathly afraid that you're going to watch it and not turn it off.
Yeah.
I have a theory. My theory is the 5-second rule, and the 5-second rule applies to if you click on one of those videos and you hit that 5-second point, you are into it. Okay, like if you click off in the first second, obviously you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Second number 2, you're like, oh whoa, I can't hit. I meant to hit it. Sorry. The third second, I dropped the mouse on the ground. Whoops, I didn't mean to. The fourth one, you're almost into it, but at the last minute, decency snatches you back into real life.
Yeah.
If you're at second 5 and you haven't even touched the mouse, you have a perversion. You have a thing. It's unfortunate, and maybe you can talk to someone and get it dealt with. But once you're past that 5-second mark, you are watching that video. Okay, it's not accidental. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
You're a grown adult.
Yeah.
You've been here for 5 seconds. You know what the fucking deal is.
And this, the whole reason I can understand, I can understand the reasoning why people watch how they logically, what is it, what am I trying to say? Like how they justify it to themselves, right? With watching the stepmother and the stepsister or just the because it's not real, they're actors, they're filming the scene, right? But with twins, identical twins, you can see that they're fucking related,
Right.
I can't even click on that. If I see in the hover the mouse over the preview, I'm like, nope, those are identical twins kissing. Just scroll to the next one,
Also, to get a little bit off this subject and get onto something else.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
How great is hovering over the mouse over the video and getting that little preview?
Yeah.
How great is that little preview feature?
You're like, nope.
The whole early beginning of my internet jerking career was just preview long clips that you string together in the little video player.
You pull up 10 clips and you just go back to back on because you're not going to sign up for the membership because you don't have a credit card.
You download all the clips and you string them together like a beautiful little mosaic of jerk material. And you spend your whole adolescence in love with women you'll never meet. It's beautiful.
And let's be honest, how long do you really need, guys? You don't need 5 minutes. If you're taking 5,
if you're treating yourself or not, though.
I guess if you're trying to.
Seal is playing.
I'm a parent. If I have the time to rub one out, it's gonna be an event. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna oil it up like a fucking old baseball glove, and I'm gonna give it a real nice trot around the yard.
Baseball glove. Too.
I'm not gonna just breeze through it. Now there's maintenance. You know what I mean? You get a little quick in the shower.
Oh, the unload jerk. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's clearing the cat. That's getting rid of your browser history.
Than it would be without doing this kind of situation.
That's doing an oil change. That's just are the air. I need to check the air in my tires. I need to quick.
That's just topping a little power steering fluid off.
Yep.
Just get rid of this because I got to get to work in 5 minutes. So I'll take care of this first. Now, as a panel of men of the world, I am forced to ask: have you ever been late to work because you started jerking off and didn't want to finish?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Just trying to get a read.
Especially because you start to worry you're going to be late, and you have that dip in arousal, and you're forcing it through, and then you get to the point where you're like, I'm committed. My dick is gonna have a bruise on it. I'm gonna fucking come. I'm in. It's you know what? If I'm gonna be 3 minutes late, I'm gonna be 10 minutes late. And it's the same.
Yeah. It's still late. You know how much?
Absolutely. I would not trust somebody who didn't have that level of humanity. To be honest with you, if somebody told me oh no, never, I'm always robotically on time, I look at them like you're fucked up. You might be AI.
The least trustworthy men on the planet are guys who say, "I just don't masturbate. I just don't really get it."
Yeah,
because they're lying.
All right.
Lying.
Yeah.
I'm I don't know who you're trying. I don't know who's listening to us right now that you're afraid of. I don't know what Big Brother pervert program you're living under the supervision of, but Get off your jerkless horse.
This is actually a perfect segue, masturbation and whatnot, to a topic we've covered in every episode. The fucking Tiger King.
Oh, Tiger King. Oh, boy.
We have to at least touch upon the subject. We've touched upon it with every other guest that we've had. And I think it's important to note it's a phenomenon. I think the combination of everybody being at home and just the material. And one of the best memes that I saw in regards to the Tiger King was, I realized that people freaking out about the Tiger King are just people who didn't grow up in Florida. But it really is such a story. Like, what are your thoughts, gentlemen? What are your takeaways?
So I'm an early adopter of that show because day 2 it was out. I watched like almost the whole thing. I watched like half of it, and then my brothers and I watched the rest of it for the next couple of days. So I want to go on record of saying this just because I feel it's important to note. I don't like any of those people. Some of them are innocuous, like the dudes who worked at the park and, the people like that. But Joe's a piece of shit. Doc Antle's a piece of shit. Carol Baskin's an unfortunate victim of sexual assault when she was a young child, but she also definitely killed her husband.
Both.
It's not like...
Both.
Yeah.
Both of her husbands are missing, just so you know.
Oh, the new one who was on the documentaries missing?
No,
the first husband.
Oh, yeah.
The first one.
Well, have you seen the theory that he's Jeff Lowe?
Yes!
Oh.
Yes!
Yeah.
If you look at side-by-side pictures, they're twin-cesting.
Twin-cesting.
But because a big thing, people are like, oh, why would you love this show? These guys, I'm like, yes, these guys are horrible. I'm watching this show with the same fascination I watch Ted Bundy documentaries.
Yeah.
I'm not watching it because I love Joe Exotic and I love Doc Antle, and I think, these guys get it, they understand. No, I'm watching him like, that dude's a fucking predator and a monster, but this story is captivating. Right. It's human life. It's also, if this documentary hadn't come up, there'd maybe be 5% of the population who knew about it.
Right. Yeah.
Because it had been talked about in a couple podcasts, and there had been like some news stories on it. But unless you lived in Oklahoma, or you lived near Big Cat Rescue, you would not know anything about this.
Right.
And it brought to attention this phenomenon, this human event that is just so utterly unique and so horrible in such a unique way. Because a serial killer killing 40 people and keeping heads in a fridge, unfortunately for Americans, I'm like, all right, well, what else did he do?
Right.
But this has murder. It has, the unfortunate
every level of intrigue,
perversion of these kids. Like Doc Antle and Joe Exotic are fucking predators. It's got animal abuse. It's got this illegal trade. It's got hired gunmen.
It's a story.
It's a story.
It's
the reason why the news is one of the most watched things still currently in the world. People still watch the news because we want to see this. We want to know what's in my area that's worse than my life right now.
Yeah.
Because
it's a year's worth
we want to
of
know
news
that we want to know something else is horrible is going on.
No, my grandfather would pop down in front of the TV at the end of the day and go, all right, let's see who the fuck killed who. That would be his every day. Let's see who killed who today on the news. Because that's what it's become. But with that story, what's so interesting to me, my wife was saying, I think it was a meme she saw, where it was like when the Cuban drug lord is the most relatable person in the documentary.
He burned an FBI agent to death.
Yeah, and he was the most chill guy of all.
Yeah.
He's like, I got a wife. I like to hang out with my animals.
I like to hang out with my friends. And, I killed an FBI agent.
The time was the best when he's like, what am I going to tell the judge? I wasn't there. Even if I wasn't the one that used the circular saw or shot the guy in the face, I'm gonna say I wasn't there. I was fucking there.
They guys work for me. They know they work for me.
Oh my god! And that other guy that was relatable, not because of his personality per se, but because of his directness and honesty. Outside of a couple of the people that worked in the park who just seemed like normal people who kind of like
regular
had weird,
dudes.
hard lives.
Yeah.
But the guy who was doing his interviews with like a monkey. He was in like an office chair.
Oh yeah, the old dude, the old white guy.
The guy who went into business with Jeff Lowe at the end, and then
exactly.
And
my favorite line of his, where his personality just shone right through with his honesty, where he was like, "I don't give a shit about how Doc Antle trains them fucking tigers. I want to know how he trains all them women to fucking bullshit." And you're just like, man, that's the most authentic, not living in his own bullshit guy in this crazy. Because they were all so deluded. so believing in their own little universe that they created. It was so weird to watch them.
I hope that in some way this show massively succeeds and people spread your guys' news and it becomes viral because I want it to be on record. I want to fist fight Doc Antle in real life.
We're clipping it.
I don't.
Clipping this.
People could wake me up in the middle of the night and be like, "Doc Antle's in your front yard."
Let's
I'll
do
be like,
this.
"All right,
Clip it.
I'll go to South Florida. I'll pop my shirt off. And I will be ready to because Joe Exotic's already being punished for the horrible things he's done. He's going to die in jail, most likely.
Yeah.
But Doc Antle is tricking these young girls. He is
Scot-free.
he's a
he's
fucking
gross.
monster.
Yeah, he's a
And and he's just living it. He's like, oh yeah, I pay these. They work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day for $100, and also they party with me. I was like, I want to knock all your teeth out.
Right?
Like, I would have probably wanted to punch him because he said he's a doctor of mystic science, and I'm like,
Oh.
oh, my bad, Doctor Strange. I
The
didn't
best
know
scene
that I
with
was
him-
dealing with the Sorcerer Supreme.
The best scene with him is when they ask him what Bhagavan means, and he's like, "Well, it means this and that," and then they cut to his son. He's like, "Oh, it means Lord," and he certainly acts like the Lord of his own little universe.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
Oh, your son aired you out,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
Dude, I want his son to kill him because he clearly wants to kill him. Like his son wants to murder him,
Son
and I
wants to
can't.
hit him with the sardine oil like Carol Baskin.
right?
Dude, I want to read the headline of like Michael Antle, whatever name he was given, kills Bogman on park with a chainsaw, like guns him down in front of a crowd and shoots his knees out. I'll start a GoFundMe for that kid to get in, like to get a good lawyer. I'll be like,
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what? He
Cochran
needs
firm.
it.
He has that uncomfortable hostage look on his face. Everybody
All
else
of them do. All of them do.
No. Like
This.
everybody else had like the brainwashed cult, like I really like it here kind of thing. But the son was kind of like with his eyes, like I'm blinking twice. That means save me. Somebody come.
Yeah,
get
no,
me.
my dad. His name Bogman
Yeah.
means Lord.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. His
Let's
son-
close
He made me
those
feel
eyes.
like he was waiting out the high cholesterol. Like he's looking at his dad, like, "Yeah, have another potato, Pop."
Yeah. Like
You know what I
his
mean?
dad.
He's just hoping.
His
He's
dad
hoping for him
beat
to
the
like
shit
limp
out of
wrong
him.
in front of the wrong tiger.
You know his dad
Fucking
beat the
get
shit out of
nailed.
him for that in his universe comment. Like, you know, he's like,
Yeah.
oh, what? No, now you're gonna say
Yeah.
something?
I guess
could
you'll
always-
be cleaning cages today,
Yeah.
won't you, son?
You're on
For real.
tiger shit duty now.
And I like how he was like, yeah, and Joe Exotic. I mean, he was doing this breeding. I'm like, there's a negative 1% chance Doc Antle's not breeding and selling time.
Right.
Yeah,
Like it is
They all
a
are.
universe. It's a universal surety. I'm like, these people are not. You know, I've read all the folks who are like Carol Baskin's organization has done a lot to rescue things, and I'm like, that's great, but she's also a murderer.
yeah. Well, she also the weird thing is like Joe started off like her, right, with a
Yeah.
sanctuary, and she started off like Joe, and they like switched.
They
spots.
switched roles.
And who knows if like this wouldn't have come out and he wouldn't have gone to jail, like if they would have switched back, like I don't think there's a long
Right.
enough timeline to see like that they do that. They
It's such
switch
a
back
weird
and
little
forth
world.
to like
It's the most fascinating documentary of the last like 5 or 6 years for me. Like,
Well,
The only thing recently that's been as good as The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia.
oh well, that's older though. That's
Yeah.
been good for like a decade. I remember
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
that back in the early.
I want to watch that.
Oh,
You
that's
should.
Dude,
That's a
it's great.
one. Those folks are more.
That's a hell of a drug.
They're more relatable and they're more. I don't want to say that it's easier to pity them because I don't pity them, but their situation is more like they're stuck. You know what I mean? They're in
What
a
else are they
weird
gonna do?
Yeah.
Right.
Like
They're caught in a loop almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
those
I
people were.
look at them almost like the same way that people who worked in the parks. You know what I mean? Who they were just
Yeah,
in a
man.
situation, doing the best they can. Like
they're
Like that-
they are what people are talking about when there's like when they say that people are like stuck, born into like economic slavery. Like
Right.
they can't go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Or people get
You're gonna get
diabetes
some
who
weird
live in
shit.
food deserts.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But like that tall, rangy motherfucker with the long blonde hair
Yes.
who works at the park.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm like, what else is that guy gonna do in his life? Like, he admitted to having problems with drugs since he was a teen and be getting involved in crimes.
Mhm.
This was a job that didn't care that he did that,
Yeah.
and he
Right.
worked at it.
Give them a
And
place to stay. And
I actually felt
Yeah.
really bad because for the whole time that they were interviewing him for the thing, he's like, "It's fucked up what's going on here, but it keeps me sober." And then the very last scene is
he's drunk.
He's drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I felt
Right.
really bad for him because he just went
Well-
like testified against the guy that basically like kept him sober for X amount
Yeah.
of years.
Right.
And like he's like, I had to tell him all the messed up shit I saw.
I mean, it's
though.
like
it's
watching.
a weird
it's like,
conflict.
it's a family member of a serial killer. Like,
Yeah.
if you're the daughter or son of a serial killer and you know they did it, and you get testified, if you're not a bad person, you're going to testify honestly, and you're going to
Right.
tell what you
It's gonna
saw.
fuck you up.
But it's going to fuck you
Right.
up. There's no,
For
I don't
life.
care how
Yeah.
honest a thing is. Honesty hurts.
Yeah.
Honesty
Yeah.
fucking
And that
hurts.
serial killer could have had a cat that they fed every day and treated beautifully, and they were a wonderful
Right.
pet.
They
owner,
took
but
care of
still
their
murdering
kids, and
people.
Yeah.
You
they're
know
like,
what I mean?
oh, here's a great Christmas,
It
and
just
look, I'm
goes
going
to
to come
show
to
the
your school
dichotomy
play.
of these individuals is so rich and deep. And then you look at a guy like that Jeff Lowe character who didn't do anything in the same vein of what a Joe Exotic did.
That
Maybe
we
he
know
murder
of.
anybody,
That we
but-
know of.
That we know of.
Yeah.
That's
That guy just cleans his tracks
But
like
he's
Doc
such
Antle.
a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like a just gross piece of shit. Just everything about him. He just drips disgusting.
Or that fucking Tub, the guy in the jet ski scene,
Yeah.
who was like, you know
Oh.
what, I had to say it, I had to speak honestly.
Yeah,
And I was like,
that guy doesn't feel bad about anything.
that dude's a
No.
fucking scumbag.
He's
Yeah.
scot-free. His little
gotta-
shop got exposure. All that shit.
Yep.
You got to also look at the people that came up with the documentary. The way they kind of brought the characters out in each episode and how they presented them was like movie-like. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They told a
they were
story.
very smart at how they presented each one of them, and it was the same people that did the Fire.
Fire Festival.
Yeah, the Fire Festival documentary. Now, when you hear that as a story, like a festival went wrong, it was shit, right?
Yeah.
But how they presented it was like there's this bad character here, this mysterious character here. They were very.
Here's Ja Rule.
Yeah, they were very smart on how they presented each one of the individuals. And not to say the story wasn't incredible and amazing or whatever else, but that was one thing I clocked about the documentary was how they presented each one in a certain light. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
and,
Well,
like,
That guy was a
it
good
was very,
storyteller.
like,
Oh.
yeah,
Huh?
definitely.
He was a
Yeah.
great storyteller. Like,
Yeah.
It was, the way they did it was it played on your emotions one way or another.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
in some ways, you felt sorry for Joe Exotic, but then at the same time, you ignored that chick who had her arm taken off.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
She
what was so
really-
brilliant about it. It pulled you
Right.
one way than the other. and-
Right.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was really the person that you should have felt sorry for, but you really didn't pay
Let me look up.
much
But then
attention
her
to her.
reaction helped you think, well,
Right.
Joe must be a good dude if she's willing to jump
Exactly.
right back in.
Well,
Like,
Exactly.
Well, what's crazy is that the way that documentary started too was just that guy was trying to make a documentary about tiger trading. Like he was
Right.
literally trying to do a documentary of like, look at the
Yeah.
illegal tiger trade happening in America. So
Right.
he was going in with what was probably, if he hadn't dug or if he hadn't decided like, you know what, I'm gonna see this story out. If he had just been like, here's illegal tiger trade, here are some people involved in
it
it.
wasn't even tigers, it was reptiles. It was exotic reptiles.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
illegal
that's what he
animal
started
trade.
with, yeah.
If he had started, it would have been a 50-minute long, maybe, maybe 500,000 people would have watched
What a
it.
serendipitous moment for him to be in this South Florida reptile place, and then all of a sudden the guy's like, you want to fucking go to my van and see a clouded leopard?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
Wanna see
that's
a
the most
tiger?
Florida shit of all time. For somebody to just be like, I got a leopard in my van. Like, that's amazing. But that happened on that day while those guys were there.
Right.
Like, shit.
And then he goes and he meets this guy. He's like, oh, this guy's pretty interesting. And then he's like, wait a minute. What's happening here?
Yeah, there's
And
a
he's
world
like-
here.
He's watching this guy do magic shows and he living with his two husbands. And
Dude.
he's got a park like run by people carrying automatic assault rifles.
Dude.
Like, so it was bananas. It was. I'm very glad I watched it,
Mhm.
and I do recommend it to people. But I feel no remorse for whatever bad thing happens to most of the people, like that the
Yeah.
thing focused on.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a white trash Game of Thrones. It was beautiful.
You know why I don't think
Yeah.
You know why I don't think Joe is gonna die in prison? Because he did like what he says like on the phone in the first episode. He's like, I'm taking everybody down with me. So like his last husband, like where they were like, no, like stop showing where you've got all these hard drives of information on everybody. Like he's giving like I the last I heard, that locker full of information of like the entire like world's illegal tiger
Tiger
trade,
shit. Right.
right? That he's got on hard drives for like what, like 3 decades or something. He's just turning that over to PETA, and I think that might just like get him out. Like he might be like the new face of PETA, which is
Can you believe
really
what
weird.
weird universe we're living in, where a reporter asked the president of the United States,
Yeah.
whatever kind of president we have, but fucking,
yeah.
where somebody asked the president of the United States if they're going to pardon fucking Joe Exotic, and the president said, "I'm
Yeah.
going to look into it." Are you fucking kidding me?
That
Well,
was
there's
hilarious.
a global medical pandemic going on. People are freaking out.
Yeah.
It's going to cause economic unrest and civil fucking mass changes in the way society works. And they're like, hey, there's a gay tiger trainer in jail. Can we get a fucking his political speeches were pretty amazing too, Joe Exotic. I feel like he had the same speech right now.
Yeah, they were.
He got what, 19% of the votes in Oklahoma?
Dude,
Yeah.
that's insanity.
That's
Oklahoma's
so
wild.
There we go.
Have you been to Oklahoma?
Yeah, I've driven through it. It's
Like,
pretty flat.
I've stayed there with my buddy who's like a traveling pool player, and he hung up
Oh,
by
Uh-oh.
accident.
let me get him back.
Yeah, get him back.
Get him back.
There he is.
There we go.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No
my
worries.
bad. My bad.
So like, I went and stayed with my buddy who like fucking drifter pool player, and like, it's terrible there. Like the people that live in regular houses look like Joe Exotic, you know? Like, oh, this is a nice
and
neighborhood. Everybody's missing teeth. Oh wow.
Marlon and I, about 2 years ago now, Marlon, that Colorado trip?
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, we drove through the whole country. We cut the main vein right through this bitch. And wow, what a weird country do we live in, man.
Yeah.
Every state is its own fucking place, man.
Yep.
And
Okay. This is something I have to tell every single person I've ever met. Everyone knows that Florida man is a term, right? We're all aware
Sure.
that Florida man
Yeah.
is a well-known term. Do you know why that Idaho man and Colorado man?
I know you.
'Cause they're
Michael
freedom.
is gonna chime in
Yeah,
right with you on this.
Because everything is like there's freedom of information, like 100%
Freedom of information.
in Florida.
So, in other states, to get access to all these police records and all these direct reports that normally you have to be a journalist to have access to, you have to go through all these separate channels. In Florida,
It's
you could just be
published.
like, I'm going to look this up. Oh, look
Yeah.
at that guy.
Yeah.
If people
It's
think that there's
published.
not a dude in Idaho right now, like, fucking a
an
potato.
alligator. Yeah.
And, yeah, like, I
he got his
guarantee-
dick in a pumpkin on his mom's front lawn right now.
dude, there's
Yeah.
a guy in Wyoming who hasn't seen a human being in 5 years who's at a McDonald's right now,
Mhm.
just banging a trash can. Just
Just
starting a meth
giving
lab
it
in the
to it,
bathroom.
right?
Like, just,
Yeah.
I guarantee you those people exist. It's just that only people in that town of 500 people know about it because it only made it to their local paper.
Yeah.
But in Florida, you know, if something happens in Clewiston, Miami, LaBelle,
It doesn't matter.
Baghdad, West Palm, doesn't matter
It's
because
public
anyone in the
information.
world
Al
can
knows
look
that.
it up.
And the thing is,
So I'm
too,
like-
we're a big state too.
We're huge.
We're
Yeah.
literally the South stops at us, and then like it becomes the North again at like Port St. Lucie, you know?
Yep.
Like, and so like and we're the same state still. It takes 10 hours to drive from Miami to fucking where the Tallahassee. Like, that's
Well,
it's
that's,
not really
that's
like
the whole
that.
area that keeps the state red.
Yeah, and that's like
Is
not,
all that is
but
all
it's not
that
even
shit.
That's so much people. We have 2 states worth of crazy shit, right? And then
Yeah.
like plus the Keys, and then like pretty much like the Bahamas, and then like everybody from Puerto Rico comes over here too. So like we've got like 3-4 states worth of people's crazy just here, right?
Mashed into one spot.
And then everybody comes here. Everybody sends their kids here for rehab, and then they leave them here, right? So we've got everybody's everybody's drug addict kids, and then also other people come here because Florida doesn't keep records on shit. So like we get everybody else's crazy too, and that's the other thing. Like when you're reading about that Florida man, they're like the Florida man born in New York City,
in Pennsylvania,
or
wherever,
Pennsylvania, or from Alaska.
Originally hailing from New Jersey,
Right,
this
yeah.
man who cut his roommate's arm off with the
Right?
katana.
Yeah, but then he's a Florida man. Like, and that goes back to like what you were saying, Andrew. There's not that many people that are born and from here, and the people that are from here, I'm like, they're not bad people.
Most natural born
sending us your
Floridians are
trash.
just unfazed. That's what
Yeah.
they are. They're just
I say stop
yeah.
sending us your trash. Like, I got lucky. Like, I'm trash and I'm here, so like I can't really say that. Like, whatever. I'm
No,
only
there's
trash
good
on the
trash.
internet.
There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good trash.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
you
gonna
can find
chop
like a
up
nice
anybody.
armoire in the trash sometimes. You know what I mean?
It's just people who are, and you know what? It's funny you mentioned not phased because I've been to so many other states for like when I do vacations or when I went on tour and stuff with the strip stuff, where okay, we were in Savannah. We had done a show in downtown Savannah, and we were like leaving the show, and like a fight breaks out in the street in front of these two bars, and I was trying to get pizza because I was really drunk. There's a pizza place at the end of the street, so I just walked through the fight. And my friend was like, "What the hell did you do?" I was like, "That's the quickest way, right? Because otherwise I would have had to go around and there are cops coming."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well," I'm like, "Yeah, they're fighting. What am I going to do? They're not fighting me, and if they do, I'll just hit them and keep going to pizza." It's one of those things where because I've grown up down here, it's not that I'm desensitized. It's just that I know that it's not going to affect a lot of the time. You know,
well,
like
you
a lot
become
of
a
the
little
madness.
jaded to humanity. Like,
Yeah,
you have, I'm sure, any of us who have lived in the state of Florida for any amount of time that have become a little jaded like that have stories and memories of. I can remember I was doing private security training for Macy's. I was doing loss prevention for them, and there was a bunch of people in my class and what have you. And one of the guys who was working with me was in my class, and my at the time girlfriend, who's I'm now married to, worked for that company as well. We're all having lunch, sitting in an outside cafe downtown Miami, and maybe like 20, 30 yards away from us, there was a guy who was clearly like fucking super fucked up and clearly like homeless. And he was just wandering around with no pants on. He wasn't bothering anybody. He just had his dick and his ass out, and nobody was really bothering him. And I just remember the guy who was at our table was like, "This motherfucker's just gonna walk around with his dick out like nothing." And I'm like, "Well, he's not causing any problems."
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, "It's Miami, man. Like,
it's like, oh, you're not from
crazy."
here.
And
his dick's not on you, so
yeah, he was just like
you're
he
living
was
separate lives.
awestruck, and everybody was just like, "Well, he's not, throwing shit or anything.
Yeah.
He's just, getting some air."
Oh yeah,
And that's a Florida, like, that's a good thing where like it's oh, you're not from here, like it's okay, just hang out
just fine.
long enough.
Just
You'll
breathe
see
through
this.
it.
You'll see this tomorrow and the next day and the day after that for however long you're here. You'll just
once you
see
see a couple of barbecue grills in
Yeah.
a traffic jam on 826 in Miami in the middle of fucking night, you're like, yeah, this is a weird. You can't.
Yeah, man.
You can't. This is a strange place. Like.
That's not the only car at a red light where
car.
4 people are going to get out and start twerking for the
Yeah.
remainder of the
Yes,
red light
right?
that you're going to
Yes.
see tonight. That's
Yeah.
maybe car number 3.
Just keep
So
going.
just wait
keep
for them to
going.
get back in the car before you drive. Otherwise, you're going to get something thrown at you.
Yeah.
So
One thing I have to say, like, when Spanky's was around, so like, obviously I've been here 8 years, and
Classic.
you guys all, like, everybody knows everybody out here. It's super weird to me. Like, everybody's like some way connected, linked up, or whatever else. And I forgot who posted it, but I think it was a Tess who posted pictures of Spanky's. I guess that was Ray's bar.
Yeah. Ray's
like
Downtown House of Blues.
Yeah, and in the pictures there were like a young Billy, there was a young you, there was a young English Brian and stuff like that. That's one thing I like was super weird coming out here. It's just like the shit that used to go on back in the day out here
Wild.
was nuts. Like
Wild.
Like I heard the stories and everything else, but if you weren't there, I guess you can't really understand it. But like when I saw those pictures and just saw everybody like just, oh shit, that's such and such. You know what I mean? Like
one reason violence doesn't bother me, and it has weirded out most of the people I've dated, is that to me a fight is just something that happens at a show. It's
Right.
not like, oh, I hope there's not a fight. I'm like, all right, there'll be a fight at some point. I just hope it just stays to the people fighting each other.
Yeah.
Because Rays and Spankies, those fights were not like, oh, this person's going to fight that person. That person's going to fight those 10 guys.
really.
And hopefully
Yeah.
he has 10 guys who join up. And if cops just didn't show up. And if they did, they showed up in force and just pepper sprayed everybody.
But also comes down to the music scene as well, because like the hardcore music scene out here was pretty fucking huge at one point, right?
Yeah, man.
Like
Gigantic.
It was the
was
only
big.
scene.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you did if you went downtown.
Yeah.
You were seeing a hardcore show.
Which is
You guys remember
amazing.
Soundsplash?
The good old days.
That's amazing. I think that, like, minus the violence and shit, but just knowing that there was such a strong scene for that music, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm gonna go off a little bit on the violence here, okay? Because I talk about this a lot because you guys know me. I am a soft baby cream puff, but I hang out with a lot of people who are harder men
right.
than I. And when people talk about violence at hardcore shows and violence at punk shows, fights and all this stuff, and they talk about it in this connotation like, oh, you guys are just going out to fight? No. We're going out to see a show that has really loud, crazy music, to see our friends, that throw ourselves against each other at high speed because our job sucks, or our parents are getting a divorce, or whatever it is. And rather than take out that frustration that is very human and very natural in those settings, we have a, for lack of a better term, safe space.
Right.
Like a hardcore show is a safe space to get in a fucking fight.
Right.
Because you're not going to get kicked out, you're not going to get ostracized, people aren't going to look at you weird. It's just going to be like, oh, those guys fought last week and now they're sharing a beer. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're friends. They got in a fist fight last week and they're friends now. And it was more than just cathartic. It was like fulfilling in a way, because you had this way to express something that you couldn't get out because you were not allowed to feel a certain way about certain situations, you know. And now we're becoming a more advanced, emotionally accepting society. But back then, that was not the fucking case, man. Like, you couldn't say, I'm super depressed and I just want to cry. So when you were at a show, you're like, fuck, you know.
Right.
That's what you did. You saw some guy do something in a show, a song came on, and you popped him on the side of the ear, he popped you back.
Which that's what I love about that kind of genre, that scene. You know, it's the same with like punk music out in England. Like, you get into a scrap, but it wasn't really a scrap. It wasn't really a fight. It was just, like you say, you just going through some shit, and that person singing or screaming was depicting your emotion vocally. Do you know what I mean? And,
absolutely.
But we never really had like hardcore music. We had a different type of hardcore in England, but when I heard about the hardcore scene out here with Billy and John Wiley, and you know, I read up about it, and it was amazing, like how strong of a scene that was. You know what I mean? Like, it was
it's family, man.
It influenced a lot of kids. Fucking look at Billy, look at John, and all them guys as heroes because of that fucking scene. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and they are. I mean,
I can respect that. I love that shit.
They stood up in a time when it was not an accepted scene, and they were like, "This is our fucking area. This is our show. Back the fuck up."
Especially in Florida as well. I find like Florida, music-wise, especially now, the scene out here, it's not really much of a scene music-wise out here.
It's bad.
In my opinion.
No, you're right.
In my opinion, like,
you're right.
From what I'm used to back home, you know what I mean? Like, there's just not much of a. There's like a mishmash of great bands and.
There's certain bands bring their own little scene with them,
but it's not really a scene though, because a scene is like, in my opinion, like. There's a bunch of you that, like, it's how you dress, it's how you talk, how you act, you know what I mean? Like, it's, do you know what I mean? It influences, like, everything about you. And I feel
like, you keep going, sorry.
But I feel like out here, there's so many talented bands, but there's not much of a, there's a scene, but it's like a mishmash. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's every genre playing
so many different
ticket.
Yeah, exactly,
It's what Andrew's just saying.
Crazy.
Dude, each band brings its own microcosm of the scene, too.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
you know, Spread the Dub show might be with a reggae band, or they might be with a punk band.
Yeah.
And the punk band opening is going to have their 20 people. Spread the Dub
or they might
have their 80
somebody
people.
like Perry Straight, I think.
He's amazing.
Great acoustic. I mean, I love watching that guy do his shit, and he's got he's got his whole own thing. You know what I mean? Like, so Adam Sheets is another guy who has his whole own vibe. Like,
the fucking the
flavor.
The Tom Waits of South Florida.
Adam his own flavor. Like, you know, I love that shit. And everybody in that that's what that scene is. That scene is the watering hole where the hyenas and the lions and the buffalo and the rhino are all sipping from the same trough because it's mutually beneficial.
Now, one reason is because of that and it's like Marlon was saying, is that, there's so many different types of talented groups, is that you'll see those guys at hardcore shows. You'll see those guys coming out to support a genre that's not their style.
Even the big metal scene that's here, you'll see all the bands that play at Prop. Like
that's the best thing about that.
We'll be at all the other shows.
I totally agree with that.
That's a fantastic segue into one of the other subjects I want to touch on. Both of you guys know so many people in our local scene. Both of you, and Marlon especially, you are so involved in our music scene.
The British fucking godfather of South Florida soul.
Fucking right. How do you guys think it's going to change, and what do we think is going to be like permanent changes, or what's going to be just temporary shifts in the way things work? What do you project as the future is going to look like for live, and Patrick, for you too, for live performance in general? Are people going to want to be in a room with 100 strangers anytime soon? What's going to be the tenor and tone coming out of this?
Well, what I would hope, what I'd like what I wish for, is that the scene just gets bigger. More people come out with great music, EPs, albums, and kind of step out of the safe space. There's one thing about Florida that is frustrating for me. There's so many talented bands and musicians, but they have to stay in the safe space because that's how they get gigs.
Can I?
Do you know what I mean?
Can I chime in on this? I've literally played music all over the nation. There's the most talented people in America in like West Palm to Miami.
Right.
Why are they in cover bands? They're all just doing shitty cover bands.
Yeah.
And it makes me pissed.
What I'm saying.
Like
it's that safe space that I just feel like with anything creative, you can't stay in that safe space. No. Not if you want to evolve. Do you know what I mean? Not if you
You're right.
But they've got their main projects where they do that, but they don't play out with the main project. They play out like you said, they need to make money, so they're all doing cover bands.
That's the thing, man. Is you got
nobody's paying to have good music playing. That's what would need to change.
There's just so many. There's a few places, but few.
Exactly, more places than Prop in West Palm, basically.
If I had to throw a spin on it, and I could be entirely wrong on this, is that the reason you see so many talented musicians who do covers, who do these, kind of congenial, more mainstream type music that's accepted, is because the boomer population that's still going out to drink is buying tickets in advance, is bringing 15 people from the office to go see it.
Yeah.
And our generation, the millennial and late Gen Xers, we just don't have the same money, honestly. Like, we were raised in a more, as we talked about earlier, economic desert. Like, how many people do you know our age group who are solid, dependable homeowners who, if they had a car breakdown tomorrow, would not panic?
Right.
I can think of maybe fucking 5. Like, and I know an okay amount of people. So
it's only 50% of us in this.
But you know what I think it is though? Like you go to New York, right? And there's like a certain club that you're guaranteed to see amazing musicians, like whether it be like punk bands or
from
singer-songwriters, R&B, whatever.
And they're from here.
But there's not really a place out here that is like a designated place of like you will see.
Yeah, there's bars that play music. There's not a music spot that also serves drinks.
Right. And I feel like
the closest thing is propaganda. It's the absolute.
Respectable. Yeah. Respectable is they.
And those are the two terms we all know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
But
like when we talk
about, it's not a designated space to hear.
No.
Good shit. Because at the end of the day, you could go to Prop or you could go to Respectables on a bad night, and it's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
So fucking weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I've been there. I've worked those shows.
Yeah. I feel like that's lacking, that type of space of where everybody can go, yo, that's the spot. And also, if you don't have that, how are musicians and bands ever going to really up their game if they're kind of still applauded for mediocre shit. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, you're right, and
Not to sound harsh, but
you're not being harsh.
you know what I
You're
mean?
being realistic.
Yeah.
You'll find those different bands that go out of state and go touring and everything else. Some of the best shows are when they're out of Florida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they'll give their A game because they know they've got to compete with whoever's the main groups or dudes are in that space.
It also comes what Michael just said, because I guarantee you, if you're going to New York or LA and you see something amazing in a show, I'm like, there's a strong chance they're from South Florida,
Right.
and they're out there
definitely.
now.
Definitely.
And so the reason being, we have these amazing shows when our bands go on tour, or our comedians or our burlesque performers, whatever it might be, when they go on tour, is because they're going to these places that are artistic deserts that only like. The dude who can do a Blink-182 cover in their town is the fucking Elvis of their town. Is the songbird of their generation.
Yeah.
So when dudes that we just know is like, I saw that guy pass out in a parking lot last night. They go to
New York.
They go to Bumblefuck, Alabama, or whatever for their tour. People are like, "Oh my God, this guy is." You see him all the time. I'm like, I've had to pick him up off the floor. I know who that guy is.
Had to peel him off.
But
peed
touching
on a
on
girl in his bed before. Yes, I've seen
exactly, and I've watched and I've been like, "Hey, are you done pissing? I want to go to sleep." But no, to touch on what Andrew kind of said in the future of what we're looking at after the new reality of where we are, and that's what this is. This
without doubt.
People trying to pretend that the Corona thing isn't real and isn't a huge change to our society are living with fucking blinders on.
I don't know if on the main screen he's I don't know if he's right under me on the main screen, but I'm pointing at a guy.
Never. I would never deny anything.
But it is. It's going to change how we live and how we
it's
interact.
Like when our grandparents used to say, like, I remember before fucking X, Y,
yeah,
Z,
before World War II, before whatever it was.
This is our generation's World War II.
This is barring anything else.
Without all the machine guns, thankfully.
Actually, there might be something really bad that's about to happen pertaining to that, because I don't know if you saw, they're coming out with tests for antibodies, and like to see if you had it and like you're fine. And if like 100 million people like test positive for the antibodies that like weren't sick, there might be some type of like revolt. Like it might be bad, not in like a good revolt way. You know what I mean? Like
I'm not gonna try and project on what that might be.
Like that, I'm saying like worst case scenario, like 100 million people find out they didn't need to go like
to lose their jobs.
Yeah, to lose their job. Like we didn't need to do all that shit. Like 100 million people. That's a third of the population going like.
I know, but
I'm out.
I live with two. Well, no, I don't live with my mom, but my mom's immunocompromised. And my brother's immunocompromised. So, as soon as this became a thing, like I'm sorry, and I'm blessed because I lucked into getting an essential services job. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we've done what we've done in the late horrible amount of time that we've done is the only thing stopping this from being a society killer.
No, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that it's not real, but I'm saying that information, because like 90% of the people are dumb. So then like 90% of that 100 million is 90 million people.
Yeah, and I could say,
and that's a lot of fucking people that are gonna.
But I also
they're
not gonna have the backbone to do a real revolution. Like
yeah,
you might get
that's what I'm saying. Like
worst
case scenarios, like
worst case scenario,
yeah.
that would be rough. But no, touching on the entertainment industry, Marlon's a performer, Andrew's a performer, Mike Connor, you said you're a performer.
Yeah.
I do the shit that I do, and we know that even in the best of times, down here especially, it can be sparse. On a Friday night, it can be a sparse fucking crowd.
Yeah.
Oh, Florida will be fine regardless of anything that happens. Like the rest of the country, like they'll be knocking on our door like, can I come stay here? Is it safe down here yet? And we'll be like, no, go do your
Florida's
war out there.
What I honestly think might happen is, as soon as society starts to level out and people can go back to their jobs and we can go to restaurants again, you're going to see an influx of people at live events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when and if this resurfaces again, that's going to be deciding what the future of entertainment looks like.
I think it's going to be huge. I think after this whole shit, it's going to be massive.
For a
Yeah.
while. I'm
It's
crossing
gonna
my fingers.
go up,
Yeah.
but then it's gonna dip, but then it's gonna level off again. But
You're right.
that depends on how much people support when it does, like, boom initially.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing. Like if we keep doing this thing and like we get a bunch of people listening to us, that's one thing I think we should harp on. Like, just because like you can go now and now everybody's going doesn't mean like a month later you should stop. Like, keep going out, keep supporting local
Yeah.
everything. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're just in Florida. You know,
And
Because-
what I would say too, like for me in Atlanta right now, push back against weird shit. Like we have a pretty large Asian community out here where I am
Yeah.
in Atlanta, and there's been a lot of weird,
Hate.
uncomfortable hate like coming
Hate.
out, and so we've gone out of our way to like patronize our local Japanese joint, patronize our local Chinese joint like a couple times a week, just to
they're
be sure
all
because like
closed down here, right, guys? Like,
they're all open
No,
here. They're
no,
all
dude. The
any
Chinese
food
restaurants
places
near me are
here.
open, and they
Where?
are thrilled when I go out.
Weird.
Wellington.
And it's like it's
well,
one of
Well,
those things where it's like,
I need to go to Wellington then because they're all
Even if-
closed around me. All
even
10
if-
that I usually go to, and I
Well,
want to
even
kill
if-
anybody that forced them to close because I fucking love Chinese. I tried to make some today and I burnt it.
you just can never get the brown sauce right. But no,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
kidding.
burnt.
But even like if there was some correlation to the Wuhan thing and the fucking bat and all this shit, the folks that are here have fucking nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
They're
right.
fucking
They were here.
Yeah.
They were
They're
here the whole fucking
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're at work. They're making fucking fried rice for you, asshole.
They're as scared as you fucking are
Yeah.
of the
even
stuff
more
coming
so
into
because
here.
now their neighbors are acting like fucking lunatics towards
Right.
you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I got a lot of
Which is
church
fucking
people around me.
terrible.
Well, I got a lot of church people around me too, and I don't knock anybody for what they believe, man. I don't like to do
Good
that,
up.
but because my wife grew up a different religion than I grew up, you know what I mean? Like it's one of
Right.
those things where you look at it and you go, oh, it's all the same shit. Like you're just it's community. But there's a lot of church people out here who are like, well, you know, my God is bigger than COVID, and the church is
Ugh.
fucking full down the street from my house on the
Dude,
weekend.
it's
and
fucking terrifying.
weird. And that's
The
what's
religious
creepy
organizations that are still meeting, and listen, I've
that
got
are
my
pushing
beliefs.
back against it.
I've got my beliefs. I've got the things that I talk to and the things that I
Sure.
hold in my heart. But I don't think anyone should be going to church.
Yeah, it's
right
very
now.
Right.
irresponsible.
Pray at home,
Like,
man.
you
Watch
are-
some TV church.
Like if your
Right.
whole thing
Oh.
if your whole thing is that your God is bigger than this, then your God is big enough to see you in your fucking house.
Right.
Dude,
Yeah, well, and God has proven. If you're talking about the God of Abraham, okay, one of the subjects I flunked out of in fucking college during my several attempts at doing that, educating myself, was theological history, man. If you want to talk about the God of Abraham, that motherfucker will let you die. That
Yeah.
motherfucker will let you die just to prove
Oh,
a
Old
point.
Testament God? Yeah, Old
Yeah.
Testament.
but
The
You're
God
talking-
of Abraham,
you're looking at kindergarten
Judeo-Christian
through-
God
oh
will
yeah, man,
let
Catholic
you
school,
die.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
I know,
kindergarten
yeah.
through third grade.
Yeah, man.
Private school, King's Academy.
Dude,
Christian.
God will let you die. No,
Old
and then
Testament-
will greet you at
So-
the gates and say, see what I fucking told you, see? Like,
But-
You did that to yourself. You
Yeah.
can't blame that on me. I gave you free will.
But let's
And-
also shout out the churches that are doing live streams, like because I see
Oh,
that
yeah.
on
Big
Facebook
respect.
a lot. They're like,
Big respect.
don't go out like pray.
Yeah,
at
no,
home
there
with
are
us. Like,
there's
there's a lot of good churches out there that are doing that, but there's
we're so
there's-
more.
fortunate in this
There's
era
more
for
churches that are
kind of
like,
thing.
you don't have a job, still tithe and come to church. It's like that guy should die of it.
Yeah, that guy should get the COVID.
Yeah, like
No, there's a synagogue out near me here that's doing live streams for because I have a big Jewish population out where I live,
Mhm.
and they're doing a live stream, and I'm like, fuck yeah! And they're also doing charitable food drives. They're not
Yeah.
getting money from them.
Right.
They're being like, hey, do you not have the money to go shopping?
They're
Okay,
taking care of people.
it's not
That's what
much,
you're
but
supposed to
here's a
do.
bag of canned goods and non-perishables.
And that's how you can really
Because-
tell, when like that organization is like actually a part of the community too, because like there's the ones that are like still give us money, but like no, like you take money from these people for decades, and now when something like this happens, you still want their money. No, now is the time to like pay it
Let
back.
you pony up.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
a fucking business, okay?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
the mega churches that are asking you to tithe, that are asking you to donate, you're a fucking business.
Yeah.
You're not
Oh,
a
yeah,
church.
without doubt.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gets me fucking furious.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
my dad grew up a Catholic, and when we were growing up, he went through Presbyterian to Baptist, but his whole life he was a theologian. That man studied every kind of Bible there was under the sun. That man would stay up in the night reading these religious texts, reading philosophers, reading all this stuff just to widen his perspective on stuff.
Right.
And what he taught me is basically a belief in what I believe in, and that and also a distrust of these fucking organizations.
Oh yeah.
Because so many of these churches are for-profit belief. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, we're talking about churches that might as well still be doing you can pay your way into heaven. Because that's basically what they're saying.
They're saying
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Wait, what's the churches out here that believe they can heal? Like,
There's a couple.
the evangelicals and the
Pentecostals.
faith healers. Faith healers.
There's faith healers of many different types too. There's like
Right.
Pentecostal faith healers. I went to a
one thing.
Pentecostal church for a brief while when I was a little kid, and going from Catholic church to Pentecostal church was a fucking shock.
Yeah.
I used to go to the high mass in Latin with my great grandmother in the morning, and they would do "In nomine Dei Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti, Amen," and the fucking beard and everything.
Yeah.
And then going from that, and that was like, that's a tight 39-minute fucking sermon that they give.
That dude
you don't even
is
shake
in and out.
hands with the priest on that one. They're like royalty. They don't fucking touch the plebeians.
Yeah.
And that was what I grew up with. And then from that to normal Catholic church. And then my mom got with this guy who was Pentecostal or whatever. And when I was like 10 years old, we go to a Pentecostal church, and it starts normal, looks different. There's no stained glass. There's nobody in robes. The dude's a pastor, not a priest. And I remember specifically sitting there with my brother, and he was like, 7 or some shit. I'm like 10. And the first person jumps up and starts to like testify. And they start, people are yelling and jumping and fucking backflipping. And I remember looking at my mother.
And freezing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that bug eye.
You lost your shit. You brought us here. Man, oh man. And then I remember they're like, okay, now the children will go to children's church. And my mom smacked the shit out of me after because she was like, all right, children's church. I go, Mom, I'm not going with these fucking nuts anywhere. I'm not going anywhere with these fucking people. And I caught a good one off of that, but I didn't have to go to children's church. But that kind of thing, you're seeing people of, overly zealous in their faith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People talk about Muslims like they're the only ones that can be zealots in these sects, people who have hurt people and things
Trying
like that.
to pretend that there's not Christian fucking terrorists.
Exactly.
Right,
There's zealots
exactly.
everywhere. There's zealots of every sect. There's
Most
zealots
of
in
the
every
American
religion.
terrorists who are also white dudes are Christian, and they're fucking scary Christian. They're the the blood of my God runs through me, like that kind of dude. Like, if you're convinced God talks to you, I'm 900% sure that you're probably gonna kill someone. Like,
But
well, because you can justify your behavior through that whole little convo with God you're having.
oh, don't worry, I talked to him earlier. I'm supposed to kill these kids. I'm like,
Cleared this up.
Yeah. The percentage is
But
lower, though, than
You
any
look
other.
in like Ireland and stuff when all the terrorist attacks were happening out in fucking Ireland. That was all over fucking.
that was all Catholic Presbyterian, baby.
Catholic and
IRA.
Yeah.
And that was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was guerrilla warfare. That was people blowing up homes. Yeah.
In the streets.
You're talking about
Well, you
like
had-
street
you had that
to street
Cuba-
combat, like fucking turning cars over to make a barricade.
We had that in Cuba after the revolution. People who were religious, like Catholics, a lot of churches were persecuted by the communist regime there. It's like, over and over again, we do the same thing. We eat ourselves the same fucking way. And hopefully we don't do that after this situation. We don't allow this situation to turn us into, like, more baser versions of ourselves. And I think that's what we're kind of all talking about, pushing back against those mentalities that are going to lead people towards panic, towards, anything like that.
One thing that's been interesting for me is growing up down here. I've been lucky enough to meet a number of really, really nice ladies, and I've dated a few girls who are Muslim, and a couple girls who are Jewish, and one girl who's like, her family's like Orthodox Jewish. And I've gotten to see these different perspectives, and I've gotten to see, I'm like, I don't get how you don't see that a lot of you are talking about the same thing.
Right.
You're based, like, you don't have to agree with where it comes from. Like, you don't have to agree that, Jesus is real or Muhammad is real. You don't have to agree on what that is.
Yeah.
But you have to agree that you all, at the end of the day, want the same thing.
Right.
We want a safe family. We want a well-fed world. We want to all feel that we can do the best we can to keep that tradition alive.
Right.
So I agree with that with people of all faiths in Western civilization, but like, I don't know if you've been to the Middle East. I've been there a few times. Like, the average person of like whatever like Middle Eastern faith is like, well, I want all of that stuff for us, and you can either be on our side or die. Like
No,
that's
I've
just
never, I've never been there,
that's
and I
just
can't
my
speak to it.
and they're
I
like
think a lot of that's like colloquial shit too, though, man. I think
Like-
if you're
Yeah.
like
if you're in a place where that's a popular idea, you're gonna.
Right.
I
just
think
say
that's more
that.
regional than religious.
Right,
To me,
yeah.
that smacks
Yeah.
more of like,
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying too. And that's
Yeah.
and the thing is they fight each other like the same way you were talking about like fucking like Shiite and like
Yeah, Sunni, Shia.
dude, like that's
Yeah.
they make like our domestic terrorism with like their everyday terrorism shit look like a walk in the park. Like, and it's dumb. And they're parallel. Like they're almost exactly parallel. Like they're literally bombing each other over like a very small differences. And
Well, look
that's
at these
crazy
Israelis
to
and
me.
these Palestinians.
And like you said, it's
man.
that's
I
just
was
the
about to say
culture.
that,
Yeah, that's just the culture. Like that you
Yeah.
said,
and
it's
also
over there.
that's
a
the
minor
that,
derivation in the lineage of the philosophy,
Yeah,
and,
man.
and it's fucking war. You see it over and over again with humanity.
but that's the IRA too. That's what we were just talking about. So
Yeah.
that's not just localized to the Middle East. That's localized to
Everywhere.
wherever
To
your
every
region
country.
is.
Africa.
But the percentage
Dude,
of it
Cubans and
happening.
Puerto Ricans shit on each
Yeah.
other all fucking
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
Cubans and Puerto
No,
Ricans,
no.
they're the same fucking Taino Indians mixed with slaves, mixed with Spaniards. The
Yeah.
same shit. And then they're like, hey, we got the red stripes and the fucking blue triangle,
Yeah.
so fuck you, you got the red triangle and the blue stripes, eat a dick. It's ridiculous.
Well,
It's
like-
the stupidest shit ever.
I'm not even talking like religiously, like regionally, like that happens every day. Whereas here, like a major like terrorist event doesn't happen domestically like every day. Like
well, it's
smaller
also
stuff too,
because
like,
we have one of the most shadowy. I'm going to get weird now. We have one of the most shadowy information. One of the most shadowy informational governments in the history of the world.
Right.
Like we have given limitless money to the idea that our intelligence community needs to have all. We're still in a state of emergency from I think World War II. That's never
Right.
technically been lifted.
yeah,
Right.
And so we're still under the statute where if they needed to, they can just bust down your door and be like, "Oh, it seems like you're conspiring with fill in the blank."
yeah,
And
yeah.
so when you have a society like that, we are constantly I don't, and I don't. They're not. This is not paper. We're black bagging things that probably could be
Sure.
big terroristic events, and also our groups, our military groups, and our secret informational groups
Yeah.
are murderers. Not the military. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
yeah.
The secret, the black site groups.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we're talking
Yeah.
CIA. I mean, the Secret Service is run by the Department of the Treasury. Why?
Yeah.
What is?
For money,
How do those
for
two
money.
interact with each other?
Yeah.
Money.
And it comes from money. It
Yeah.
comes from money.
Right.
We are Christianity is not the dominant religion. Fucking
Money.
the
Cash.
banks
Yeah.
are the
Cash,
dominant.
yeah.
Are,
Mhm.
and also people, and I'm going to get even weirder now. People talking about the economical state that what is going on is happening right now. I'm like, money is imaginary in our current world.
Mhm.
$2.2 trillion. You might say,
Confidence system.
you could say 2.5 billions,
Mhm.
9
Yeah.
jajillions.
That's
It
what
doesn't
always
matter.
shocks me. And I've had this conversation with Marlon before, just on a personal level, and with Mike too, I think. Marlon and I have had this conversation on a 22-hour fucking drive. But
Yeah.
that's what shocks me about people's fervor in their political side. Like, how does
Oh,
the
yeah.
average American not see the
The same
lack of
fucking
of
side.
importance in who the fuck they vote for, or it's
Oh.
all the same bullshit. Biden and Trump, get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
They might as well have been in the same frat. Are you
Mhm.
kidding me?
Probably
Fucking- and
could
then
have.
Hillary and Trump before that. Oh, you want to get shit in your eye or shit in your mouth? You get to
Mhm.
pick.
Right.
What the fuck are they?
Your
giving us?
villain is an old white guy in a suit.
Right?
Dude.
Like, if you want to find the villain, look up an '80s movie, and when you find the old white guy in a suit who's like, well,
Michael
the reason
Gordon
I'm doing
Gekko.
that
Michael
is
Douglas.
because I have to.
Yeah.
Like,
And see,
when you find
people get mad at me when I say this, but like, because like he was one of like the most murderous presidents, but like Andrew Jackson stopped. He delayed the whole banks taking over America thing by like, because it was him for 8 years, and then like his vice president, his third vice president was president for 4 more years after that, and then until they figured out that he was doing the same thing Andrew Jackson was doing. But he was like straight up like, oh, you work for like the international banking cartel, so resign or I'm going to shoot you. And they're like, ha ha ha.
Oh
And,
yeah,
like,
I mean he was
like-
Andrew Jackson was a good old fashioned racist murderer.
yeah,
Like Andrew
but,
Jackson was
like, yeah. Aside from that, like, I'm saying, like,
But he didn't like the
like
banks.
they tried like the first iteration of the Fed, right? He like just was like, oh no, you're not gonna set up your international fake money scheme. Like I paid off our debt. Like he paid off the national debt with like gold reserves, and then basically killed the people that he paid it off to get it back, right? So he's like, no, we're good. We're flush with gold, right? Like we don't need your fake money. And they're like, we're going to do it. He's like, I'll just call the army here. I'm going to blow up your ships. You won't go home. He's like, do you want to go home or do you want to die? Basically, to the international banking cartel. He figured out that his vice president was working for them. Just walked straight into Congress. He's like, you guys can impeach this guy or I'm going to kill him right here. Fastest vote, like, ever. Like, unanimous vote in, like, United States history. Maybe apart from this a stimulus package. But
well,
like,
back then you could fucking just straight up call out a duel in the streets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we need to bring back duel because I want
I
to watch
think-
some of these guys in Congress just shoot each other in the
I
street.
think Washington State is the last mutual, maybe Alaska as well, mutual combat state where you can both agree
no,
to a scrap.
Colorado. You
Is
can do
Colorado a
that too.
mutual combat state
Yeah,
still?
that was a newer thing because they were like,
If
oh,
we could
can
have-
do that?
If we could have our governor and senate races just be like, well, these two guys disagree. I'm like, dueling pistols, 10
Right.
paces.
Yeah,
Stream it
Even
on
just fist
YouTube.
fights-
and like I
Even
said,
just fist fights would be amazing. If you legalize mutual combat in every state, shit would change very rapidly. When the potential consequences, somebody's like, man, let's just dust it off. Let's just dust it off. Let's just get it out and get it done. And you'd see so many people like, you know what? I've reflected on my words. Let me like it would change almost immediately.
Yeah.
Almost
Right.
immediately.
and like I said, like Andrew Jackson, terrible person, but like when it came to like fucking over the country, he was like, I'll shoot you. Like that's what, like, you know, like he did way more worse stuff, but then like you think about like wherever we are economically and like however many question mark fake dollars we have now in like 12 years from now, he like delayed us whatever, like 12 years. Like, so like what our kids are going to grow up in, right? And that's the fake money world of that, where everything's 1,000 question mark dollars, you know? Like that's what he delayed us from growing up in that, I guess.
What
Which
I
is
really
kinda
want
nice.
is just
We
I
just
want
needed
society to
another
get-
one of him.
I need society to get to the Logan's Run point. Have you guys ever seen the movie Logan's
Oh
Run?
yeah.
So Logan's Run is a dystopian future where when you get to a certain age, you are a gem in your neck, I
Yep,
think,
starts
beeps,
flashing. Yeah.
and you get sent into the wild.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we just did that, it would balance
That's
things
dope.
out. And you're not dead, you know.
Yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah.
You're
gotta
on your
figure
own.
it out.
But
They all
just up
live out
to a
there.
certain point, yeah, they're fine, they're chilling, and if you can't survive, that's on you. All right?
Yeah. You had time to get ready.
You ever watch
Yeah,
that
right.
movie
Yeah.
with the fuck?
No, but what you were saying about Andrew Jackson or
Portals.
whatever, or whatever president.
Yeah.
You know the marbles in your ass principle discussed by the late great Patrice O'Neill, where he talked about listening to conspiracy theorists,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, man, this guy's got a lot on the ball. This guy really makes a lot of sense. And then they say some crazy shit. So you're having a conversation with somebody who seems like a genius, and then they
Yeah.
start putting marbles up their ass right in front of you, and you're like, oh, all right, that changes my whole perspective on what you were just saying previously.
Yeah.
Everybody from that era who like owned other humans, I put them under the marbles up your ass principle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't get all the good shit you did. Like, whatever. Like, let's just file all those guys under not being viable.
That's
Fuck
like
all
why
those
my
guys, man.
that's why my great grandfather isn't like, he's recognized privately in the Filipino community as like a great, like a politician and like a civil rights person for the Filipinos, but like if you're not Filipino, you don't really know him, because like he would marbles up your ass type thing. He would like give these nice big speeches, and then he would start going to like slightly like Asian supremacy, and then he'd go like full on Asian Hitler, and then like my relatives would be like, oh no, you got to get him down, take him down, put the other guy, put the main guy up there.
Well, Asian racism
Like-
is a very different kind of situation, because I've known like several folks who grew up from like old school harder Asian backgrounds who it's like, oh no, you guys, we don't think of you racistly. You don't barely exist to us. You're like
You're
a
not
rabbit
worth
or a
race.
deer.
Yeah, you're
Like,
not worth
yeah, like-
racial slurs.
Yeah,
Like I
you're
grew
just
up in
another
the
kind
Asian
of creature
community.
than us. You're not
that's
the same.
That's what it is. Dude,
Yeah.
actually, I'll tell you something, Andrew. I don't think I told you this before. Like when, so my grandmother, like on my, this is on the internet now. Whatever, who cares? Ah, so
There it
like
is. Spread it.
on my father's like 50th birthday, she like rented a house out on the island, and like it was fun and everything. And then she like pulled me aside. My girlfriend was half white, half Cuban girl, but she looked white at the time, and she was like, I'm. So you notice that all of my kids have either like married a white person or like had a kid with them, which is me, because my dad's the only one that didn't get married to the person they impregnated, or whatever. And then she was like, "So I'm just gonna say this, like I don't care like who you date as long as they're not black." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Cut to like 2016, no,
Seems like she
2000.
did care then, you know?
Yes, no, exactly, right? And I was like, this is weird. Okay. And then she's like, yeah, let's go back in and we'll keep partying. So that was like 2013. My wife is black, by the way. She was not my wife yet, but we fly out to San Francisco to surprise her for her like 90th birthday or like 85th birthday or something like that.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And like we're at like this really, really like super bougie fancy restaurant. Like we had to get dressed up and shit. And then like I come around the corner and my grandma sees me and she's like, "Oh." And then like my girlfriend at the time comes around the corner and she kind of gives me this weird look and I'm like, "This is it. This is where I get written out of the will. Like this is where like, you know." But then like she does like the thing we were talking about before where like she sits down and my grandmother's like, "Oh, I was like one of the first Filipino nurses, right? Cuz she's old." And then like my wife at the time or my now wife is like "Oh, I'm a nurse." And then like she hears her speak and like if you talk to my wife on the phone, you'd be like, "Her name's Crystal. That's a white girl, right?" So then like my grandmother hears her speak and then like she's like, "Oh, you move. Get out of the way." She was talking to me. And then they talk for like hours. And then like later in the night she pulls me over and she's like, "She's a good one. I like her." And I was like,
She's a
okay,
good
cool,
one.
yay. This is a thing. Well,
Oh, that made me uncomfortable.
yeah, dude, I lived it. I lived that.
Yeah.
Like, and I knew as soon as like I knew when I wanted to marry my wife when like we were watching like 28 Days Later, and like my favorite part about that is like the band Cult of Luna does like the whole soundtrack for that, and she was like, "I only like this movie for the music," and I was like, "I love you," right? And then from that point on, all I could think of was uh, my grandma saying at my dad's birthday, like, "I don't care as long as she's not black," and I'm like, every
Yeah.
single day in my brain, I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be a thing. This is gonna be a
Yeah.
thing." And then
And
luckily,
did your wife know that?
yeah, I told her that.
That's her.
I told her that. Like, I was like, "Listen, it might be weird. Like, you're lucky you sound like you're white. Like, it might be good. It'll be. I think
You
it'll be
said that
okay."
to your wife?
Yeah,
You said,
yeah, dude. I just 100%
just for
like
the
Asian.
record, just for the record, she
What?
doesn't sound white. She sounds black. It's just you just ain't used to.
Listen, no, I was
Yeah.
explaining.
You know
No,
what I mean? Like,
I was
there's no thing of
explaining it
sounding
to
white.
her. I was explaining it to her the way my family would say, or my grandmother,
Right.
because like the rest of my
Right.
family is cool. But like, yeah, man, like I was like, this is what it is going to be like.
That's a thing that our generation, I think, we've jumped over that hurdle. I think mostly generation. Like my dad wasn't keen on me marrying my wife because she's Jewish. I know she had some family in Israel that were like, he's not Jewish. Like that was like an issue. And you know, luckily they all fucked off and figured it out or whatever. We've been married for almost 10 years now. But like,
By the way, say hello to Eva.
I will. She'll not care about this podcast for sure. but it's one of those things where I feel fortunate. All my friends in my circle, all you know, everybody, even no matter how cheeky they could be or funny they could be racially, or like Morrison get us kicked off Switch forever. Because that happened in our first podcast.
Yes.
That
account is gone.
That account's fried. Thank you, Michael.
Gone.
We love you.
Michael Morrison's, and I hope he watches this. And Michael,
sure.
I hope you're
I'm
looking
sure
at
he
me
will.
when I say this. You're one of the most uncomfortably racist people I've ever met in my life.
And I love him so much.
As a black dude towards black people.
Yeah.
Dude, can I tell you? I worked at that pharmaceutical company that I was talking about. Like, at the time, my girlfriend was like a Cuban girl with like a big ass, right? And I have diabetes, heart disease, and all this other shit. And like, I wasn't like like I lived in like a shitty like apartment, and like all the black guys that were around me, they're like, "You're black," and I was like, "What?" Like they're like, "No, man, you're black," and they kept like trying to get me to say all this like. They kept trying to get me to say the N word like every day. I'm like, this is a trap. Nope, never gonna say that. Nope, nope, nope. Yeah, and then they're
Stop.
just like, yeah. I was like, this is very uncomfortable for me. And then like,
Not happening.
yeah, and then like those guys were like way racist about black people too. In my personal experience, the most racist people that I've met that are of our generation are black people talking about black people, Asian people talking about Asian people, white people talking about white people.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows the smell of their own shit.
And then I'm
you know
just
what I
like,
mean?
and I'm like,
because I got some
but
real
I'm
strong
friends.
opinions about Cubans and Italians.
Right? And I'm like,
Let me
but
tell
I've
you.
met all you guys. I'm like, I'm friends with everybody. Everybody seems cool to me. And they're like, yeah, but like you're like us. And I'm like, no, that's what every single racist told me. Like, you're a good one. You're like us. I'm like, no, I'm just. I don't
No,
give a fuck.
I'm
I
the
just
thing that I
don't-
am. You're
Yeah, just normal
I don't
asshole.
give a fuck. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of one of the cool things about growing up in Northern California. Like I said, everybody speaks exactly like I do. It's really weird. It doesn't matter what you look like. So like I just thought everybody was regular. So that's like ingrained in my brain. When I meet somebody, I'm not like, "Oh no, they're whatever," right? I mean, I'm like that if they're kind of like hillbilly or like hood. I'm like, "Am I going to die shaking your hand?" Like those are the exact two same things to me. Like
So,
hillbilly and
speaking
hood.
of that,
That's it. Those
Tra-
are the only things.
traveling with Michael Morrison,
Everybody's
he
got
and
a
I
good story.
were working in a show at an art house at the Breakers, which is a very elegant, nice hotel, and we were unloading millions of dollars of art into a semi truck, and then we had to drive it back to a warehouse about an hour away. We had to stop and get gas. We stopped and get gas off 45th in the corner of Riviera Beach, which is a predominantly black area.
45th and 95?
Right before 95, like
Okay.
that corner. You know,
Yeah.
right near Hooks,
Yeah.
like right near Hooks Fish and Chicken.
Yes.
So we're stopped at a
no.
gas station, and so we get out
Why
of the
that
truck,
one?
and Michael starts talking in the way that Michael talks,
Yep.
and pointing out stuff about people walking around and saying this about that guy and this about that lady. Now, if you are a black person, you hear these words coming out of a mouth, you might just turn around and don't see Michael. You see me. I look
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
Civil War general. I look like I fought in the Confederacy. So even if you don't associate the voice with my voice, you heard the words, you turn around and you see Stonewall Jackson.
You're
And
gonna
so I was
must have
like,
been
Michael,
that guy.
Michael, shut the fuck up, dude. No, I get it. It's hilarious. Shut the fuck up, okay? Seriously? Get back in the truck. I'll pump the gas. I'll get the drinks. You just talk
Yeah.
into your hands.
Yes.
Take all that nasty hatred and just put it right here. And just, you can throw it at me when we're in, and I'll just shake my head and turn the music up.
And you know what's weird about that? I would, with literally, I feel like anybody that I know, I would feel safe walking around like Tamarin at 3 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, like I don't feel safe walking around with Mike in like Lake Worth. Like
No.
that could
Mike
you
is
could
a
just come up and be like,
notorious loud
it was
talker.
you, not the black
Marlon
guy.
and
But
Mike
no, it
and
wasn't me.
myself. Marlon and Mike and myself were allegedly on a fungal substance in Atlanta one
Allegedly.
evening, and
Oh,
we were
yeah, fuck.
we were at a
Forgot
club.
about that.
We went to several clubs before we found our spot. The first club we went to, Mike looked right at me and said, "There's too many," and then he used a word that I'm not going to use because I want to
Thank
keep
you.
our YouTube page. There's too many here, and I was like, "Oh man, they're all real close to us too, Mike." Like,
Yeah.
and so he says that shit. We're there for a bit, and it was kind of a young room for us anyway. That would have been my thing. Like, it's a little young room. Like, they're playing Lil whoever. Like, I don't know who the fuck this is. It was cool. We grooved. Then we went to another spot, which was a really cool, like, I would call it like older. What would you say, Martin? Like older professionals, mostly in the spot. You know, the whiskey mistress. They were like older than our age. They were people who were like in their late 40s, early 50s, but they were getting down. They were like watching somebody's like, auntie like bust their big ass all on the dance floor. It was fun. And
Business
then,
casual with the titties out.
Yeah.
dude, it was great. It was great, and it was like a black-centric club. It's Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? So it was like it had its own flavor, and it was cool. But it wasn't like our spot either. Then we find a spot in Little Five Points in Atlanta called the Star Bar, and we found a psychedelic punk rockabilly band
Mm-hmm.
where all the members, the youngest guy was probably like 58.
Excellent.
It
I was tripping.
trippy
Oh.
as fuck, right? We have a
Allegedly.
great time. We're peaking right in that moment, and this guy's singing a song about like driving a hot rod, even though he's drunk, and he's like, "Cause God told me I can drive." And we're
He
all
looked like
looking
a
at each other
toad
are we
to me.
really here right now? Holy shit!
Bro, you know when I was tripping allegedly, he looked like a toad. Like I don't know if I said it to you or Michael. I was like, yo, this guy looks like a fucking toad.
Bro,
when
this
he's
band
singing.
looked like the cast of the Devil's Rejects. Bro.
Nice.
It was tremendous.
It
was
was
tremendous.
amazing.
And they were great. They were outstanding. They were old and leathery and ripped. The dude who was the lead singer looked like he had a cigarette and a beer in the same hand, which is like one of my favorite. When I see that, I'm like, that's a professional, right? Yeah. And the mic thing on the other hand, a bowling shirt, glasses, the classic white dude part. He looked like the assistant manager at a pool supply store. You know what I'm saying? Like he was just your classic.
Oh, you mean
guy.
Trey? Yeah, I know
Bro,
Trey. Yeah,
going so hard. It was amazing. We watched the show. It's a trip. We get outside, and our boy Tom's driving us, so me and Marlon and Michael are all like, woo, coming down off of that fucking amazing peak. And these dudes who are clearly a crew, wearing vests and shit, are walking out of the bar, and Michael's like, yeah, man, it's a great club. It's its own little scene. It reminds me a lot of Prop. Look, I even love all these characters coming out. Look at these guys in their cute little vests coming down here, all in their little shit. And I'm like, motherfucker, you know what you're doing. You're kicking a beehive.
Yeah.
And he's like, what, me? And I'm like, yeah, bitch. Now, granted, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if you put me, Marlon, and Michael in a room full of trouble, I think we're all going to come out pretty fucking okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't be worried about you guys, but still.
But you're not looking.
You know
for
what
it.
I mean?
You're not
People in
looking
Atlanta
for it.
also like their guns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm
And
not
also,
trying to shoot
Michael
out either.
doesn't kick Michael slaps beehives and then talks about their fat moms.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he can't just be like, oh,
He
beehive,
loves
I'll
that
kick
shit.
it. He'll
loves it.
take a turd and drop it in there and be like, I did that.
And I love him for it. I gotta be honest.
No,
we love him for it.
He's a great dude. I love Michael Morris. And
He's my favorite
deeply.
animal.
And he has one of the most absurdly beautiful voices.
Oh my god. I feel
anyone.
very lucky to be finishing this project with him. We're gonna be done as soon as this Corona shit is over.
I just got him a gig actually just recently.
Nice.
I got him a happy birthday gig.
I'm gonna send you a video. I fucking forgot. I've been doing public school every fucking day. It's been wild.
Oh yeah, you should.
I built so much shit with Legos, bro. Holy shit!
Oh.
I feel like I could do like a home repair with Lego at this point. I built so many princess castles.
You ever watched Lego Masters? That new show on
Dude,
Fox?
I haven't.
I've been wanting to watch that. You know, I bet
That show's good.
I'll check that out with the
show's
kid. That would be
good.
perfect. Something to watch with the kid.
Can I take it back to people that kick the beehive?
Yes, please.
So funny story. Marlon and I are not friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
But we
Now
were.
we talked about this the other day.
But
I
we
think
were.
maybe on the show, maybe not. You actually, Mike, said it was one of the most adult things you
Oh.
ever experienced.
Yeah, no, because like you said that like after he unfriended me, you were like he talked to you and you were like, no, like he's legit, that's cool. And then like after that, like that's when I met you for the first time in person, Marlon. And you were like all smiles, you shook my hand. I was like, yeah, no, this guy knows. Like, okay, cool. I just can't be friends with you on Facebook. That's fine.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's like super adult because like people that like take my shenanigans on the internet seriously, and then they meet me and they're like, "What the fuck's up, bro?" And I'm like, "Hello, hi." We were, but I'm talking like people that I've been friends with for years. Like all of a sudden on Facebook are like, "Oh, you don't support my political sides." I'm like, "Bitch, I don't support either of them." Like, fucking calm down. We're at real life now. You know, like this is just whatever on Facebook. Nobody gives a fuck. You know.
That's why I don't get political on Facebook, man. On Facebook,
I learned
post-
that shit the hard way, arguing with
That's
people.
what I live for, and people don't know that. Like unfortunately, Marlon had to learn
not
like my
worth it.
super troll, like because like I'm not gonna lie, Marlon. For a while, I was like just like I'm gonna be nice. Like I know Marlon's nice. I'm not gonna say anything. And then one thing I was like, because it was like a waterfall. Why it was so much is because I've been holding it back for so long. I was like, it has to come out at once.
I was lucky enough. I was lucky enough to have a back and forth with a friend who we all know, Eero, who I've known since like 9th grade. We had a back and forth that got ugly, got shitty. I unfriended him. He threatened me. We got stupid with each other, and luckily we both had enough history and whatever to look at it and go like, man, all right, let's talk. And we talked, and I think we both came to the conclusion that we had acted like super cunty and needed to both like analyze it, you know what I mean, realistically. And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm picking a team over a friend that I've known since childhood. Like, this is ridiculous. And I think we both came to the same conclusion where that situation taught me, like, arguments on Facebook. You can disagree, whatever, but don't put too much stock into that shit, man. Yeah. It's not worth it.
I totally agree. I mean, to be honest with you, and me unfriending you, it wasn't like a... What most people don't understand out here is I'm not really here to make friends. Like, I have to miss out on so much back home in England. Like, I have to miss my mom, my sisters, nephews, nieces. If I have to miss them to be out here, I'm not going to have stupid people around me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying, like, so...
It was dumb what I was doing.
Right, but do you know what I'm saying? It's like I've still got another side of my family there. So it's kind of like, I can't let people say just anything on my Facebook or anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm just kind of like, hey, I love you. I think you're cool and everything.
Yeah.
I just can't have you in this space because, you know what I'm saying?
That's kind of what he was saying.
And nobody...
I try to be like, I never want to try and control anyone what they want to do or anything. And listen, but it doesn't mean that I have to see it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I totally understand. Like, and like I was telling Andrew, like, that's an adult response, you know? And I respect the shit out of that. If I post something or make a comment like that's inappropriate or somebody feels is inappropriate on their Facebook and they like private message me, they're like, hey man, like my niece or whatever, or like my mom. I'm like, oh shit, and I don't delete comments. I don't unfriend people, but like I will be like, oh no, shit, dude, I'm like totally sorry. I'll go like delete everything fucked up that I've posted, you know? Like, you know, like, and like I totally, when you unfriended me, I wasn't like, oh, that's fucked up. I was like, oh man, like that sucks that we can't interact like that. Also, too, I know that like you use social media primarily for like business too. You can't like have people fucking up your shit like that. Which, once again, like. If I'm gonna start fucking with your business, like let me know, I'll fucking stop. I'm not a fucking crazy person that I interact. I interact with the crazy people because I love it, and crazy people will not stop, and I can just be like, nope, and they'll write me an essay, and I'll be like, you suck. Another essay, like I love that shit. That's my favorite thing ever. But
back to our thick little friend, big little thick friend, Mike Morrison. He's another one who I love to follow on social media.
Mike and I team up.
For those fucking posts, man.
He got mad at me because I unfollowed him on Facebook, and like I didn't delete Mike because Mike, we've got a history. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't really know you that well, like me and him we got a history. But I had to unfollow him because I'm like, yo, I can't like.
Every day.
You're talking, talking some stupid shit. Like,
I'm in the same way with Mike. I love Michael Morrison.
When he's like hating on black people and everything else when he does his little rants, and I'm like, motherfucker, I just got you a $200 fucking gig. I'm the black guy that's helping you, motherfucker. You're like, really? You know?
But Michael, he'll say that
I can't be seen.
You're a good
I can't be seen on Michael's post because once again.
Right.
Look at my fucking face. even if I accidentally hit like on one of his crazy person rants, someone will be like, "Who liked this?" And they'll be like, "Oh, look at Stonewall Jackson.
That racist
look at this fucking."
I'll be honest as well. I'll judge every motherfucker that likes his shit. I'm going, all right, I don't need
I like all
you. I love all of them.
I want to see more. I want to see more ridiculous nonsense.
I love that all of them.
I get guys on everybody that likes his shit. I'm like, all right, I don't need to be friends with you. Right?
But like you were friends with James for a while, and like that's my best friend.
Friends with Jay.
Yeah, like that's my best friend. So like, imagine like a more enthusiastic James troll. That's just me all the time. So like you know that I'm not like.
Yeah, I get that.
That's one thing that...
I know but that's the thing that pisses me. Like with James is a perfect example, right? He's gonna probably fucking be mad at me for saying this, but
cares?
he's the most sensitive, softest guy ever. But when it comes on Facebook,
Hey, I'm right here.
No.
He'll say some fucking outlandish shit and like shock value shit. And I'm like I don't know if he's doing it and he means it or if he's doing it just to just wind people up. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes he
Can I tell you?
throws you in a weird space.
99%, it's to throw you off.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. Yeah. But I mean, the most sensitive, like that's something you learn about him if you're like good friends with him for a while. Like that is.
He's a softie. He is
a sensitive dude. But then like he'll hit you for saying that. Like that's the thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I saw James almost get killed by what's the homeboy's name? Jason, for catching him off guard while we were fucking hanging out on Marlon's birthday.
Oh.
Is that homeboy's name, Jason?
Yeah.
That was great. We were hanging out on Marlon's birthday, again, allegedly imbibing certain fungal, fauna and flora.
Allegedly.
And,
You're engaging in the act of ingesting organic produce. Go on.
So we're walking down the street with this giant sack that Marlon had gotten a hold of, and I, for that occasion, had rolled like 20 herbal, let's call them herbal cigarettes.
Yeah.
And we're walking through Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, close. There you go.
Yeah.
They were very fucking minty. And we're walking through Fort Lauderdale, and as we're walking through, we're eating, these dried snacks out of this big bag that Marlon had. And I look up, and I'm like,
can you remember I told everybody just to grab a handful and just eat them?
Dude.
But everybody was screwing about the mushrooms. They were like, oh,
your boys were scared. You and me were the only ones that went in. You and me were the only ones that went in. Oh, we lose Patrick?
I think he just pressed the camera for a second. I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't want to be associated with.
He's still here. I think he can still hear us.
You there, Pat? Can you hear us?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, look at him.
So we're
taking care of something.
Lauderdale, and we arrive at this building. We're walking under this building with massive overhangs and metal rebar and shit. And I'm like, look at this building. I go, I think we're walking through the jail right now. We were walking directly through the downtown fucking jail in Fort Lauderdale, eating a giant bag of shrooms. Then we get to the beach. By the time we get to the beach, Marlon and I are both feeling fucking fantastic. We stopped at a Publix that had a liquor store in it. We mixed some cocktails for the road. We had a great walk.
Drinking of mushrooms.
James and Jason and Alex was the other guy's name. I'm airing all the motherfuckers' first names out. I don't give a shit. Because I live
Allegedly.
So they are all like dabbling with the shrooms as we go, and then by the time we're approaching the beach, everybody's like, fuck it, let's do this. How much did you guys take? And Marlon shows them how much we took, but that was probably ill-advised because Marlon and I were a bit more experienced in our travels. And so by the time we get to the beach, everybody's fucking on the moon. Alex is constantly talking about punching people in the face for Marlon's birthday. And he's not just talking about punching people in the face. He's pointing out old ladies, handicapped people,
I've heard
midgets.
This story, yeah.
I don't know if you can say little people. I'm not sure. He's like, I'll punch him in the face for you right now, Marlon.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I never punched anybody before in my life. But I'll punch that guy in the wheelchair for you. And Marlon's like, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? And then Jason goes off to grab a drink from one of the bars on Fort Lauderdale Beach. And James follows him. And I guess while Jason was waiting for his drink, he had a little, as we all would in that circumstance, a little fucking he was just grooving. He was happy with his music.
That's it,
he was about to get a nice little beverage in his hand. He was feeling good from the fucking fungi. And James filmed it for whatever fucking reason.
That's what James does.
He filmed like 3.5 minutes of dancing.
Oh, that's so funny. I hope he kept that video.
And you're talking about dudes who are not experienced shroomers. And when he gets back, he's showing us all the video and not showing Jason. And Jason's like, what the fuck are y'all giggling at? What the fuck are y'all giggling at? When James finally shows him, you watch somebody feel so vulnerable because like, you caught me in his personal private moment and you showed all our friends. I'm fucked up right now. And they got so close to wanting to fight that it was not even funny. And Marlon had to fucking throw water on that fire. Because Jason was just like, motherfucker, what the fuck are you filming me for? Bitch? And he couldn't let it go all night. Every time everything would cool down, like 20 minutes, they would get quiet. And he'd be like, and why'd you fucking film me for, motherfucker? Like, it was fucking, he caught him in a vulnerable moment, and it just stung him so hard. And James didn't get that was a creepy, like, you know what I mean? James is like, I don't know why he's so mad. It's like, you just totally made him the one guy that everybody's laughing at, motherfucker. That's what. And then Alex talking about punching everybody.
In his defense, like our group of friends, like James and I group, like our close group of friends, like all the people from Port St. Lucie and shit, that's like not like nobody's fucked up. Like that's the thing that we do every day with each other. And I think like he was like, oh, these guys are my friends too. And then like, but like regularly, I don't think he would have done that. But like,
every friend group has a different shorthand, you know.
Yeah. But
you just got to learn the love language of that group.
Yeah. Once he got fucked up, he was like, oh yeah, I can.
Well, that was the funny part.
Like I fuck with my friends.
Everybody was so banged up. Everybody was so banged up that night that every now and then Marlon and I would look at each other, and it was like one of those like where Marlon, you almost looked at me sometimes like apologetically, like, I know we're babysitting these fucking three assholes right now. Like, we'll do something else, I promise. Like, that was like the vibe. I still had a great time. I think we had a lot of fun. The funniest part of the night, though, we get back to the fucking Airbnb. It's been like a wild night. It's been a long, weird, ebbs and flows of this one mad at that one, and Marlon being like, fuck these guys. All right, let's get these guys in an Uber song. Different bars, different this. We get back to the Airbnb, and James is on a trundle bed under Alex. And my brother came by from a Mexican restaurant, and he brought some Mexican food, and we ordered.
Oh, that was amazing.
I ordered a bunch of checkers.
That sounds nice.
Shit, and fucking everybody's quiet in the Airbnb. I'm getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden, Alex just leans over James. James is like half asleep, and he whispers, "As soon as you start snoring, I'm gonna punch you right in the fucking face." And everybody dies. Everybody fucking dies. He was really threatening. There was a point in time where I was like, I think I'm going to hit this dude before he hits me. Because he would be like walking up on you.
Yeah.
And he'd be like this. And he'd be like, fucking just gonna put. And I was like looking at him at one point. And Marlon's like, hey, Drew. No, Drew. Don't hit him. I don't even know how we got off on that tangent. But that was a fun night.
Oh, my God. That was so funny.
People that act like me.
Yes. Trolls. Personal trolls in life.
Play fighting can be a bit dangerous in some of our circles. Like the people who like are like I know some groups of dudes who like it's a thing for them to like slap each other or like do whatever, and I'm like, let's not do that. Let's not play that with me because
save sparring for the
take
gym.
That the wrong way.
Yeah, save sparring for the gym.
Yeah,
dude,
that's the best way I could put it. It's
like that.
I used to when I was in college. I used to after when I hung out in the theater program with those folks, and so we would go to a place called Gators Dockside, which is a chain bar restaurant, and they're like it's basically a sports bar. And we would go there with this group of the theater kids, and they were actually in a mix. It was community college, so it wasn't like theater, real artsy type folks.
Mm-hmm.
There were people like me who were background theater kids. There were people just taking elective, but we all just hung out as friends. And some of the groups a few of the people in that group were like former jock type dudes, and I guess for them it's more a thing when they get drunk to like grab each other and wrestle, do that kind of shit. Yeah, and so I remember one night I was out drinking.
Suppressed homosexual.
Exactly, get out there.
Well, I've had some friends where that's the relationship, but that even changes it as to like one of my best friends, my former bass player when I was in the band FLA, Gabe Stanley. We competed together over and over again for years in jiu-jitsu tournaments.
That's different.
And kickboxing matches.
No, that's different.
Well,
that's your
we would
exact
sometimes
style, though.
Right, but we would sometimes see each other and have like a body shot spar, like in the middle of a party where we would drill each other in the guts.
But
that was our relationship.
But that,
right.
Yeah,
my best friend Tom, when we were younger.
That's the thing. That's you guys.
You have that relationship with that person.
My thing was that these guys were. I remember one specific event. I was out in front of the bar. I used to drink pitchers by myself in my hand. I used to. I still will, but that was how I drank.
On a fun night.
Like a man.
I have big hands, so it looked natural. Like, oh, has a beer that
I can totally see you with like a giant Viking stein all day.
Sipping it. So I'm sitting there sipping, and I set it down, and that's when one of the guys chooses to like try and like goose me, like try and like sweep my legs a little bit, because like him and this other kid were just doing that, and I was like pushed him away. I was like, don't do that. And he goes to do it again, and I was like, nope, and I like pushed my hand against his face, Now that set him off because now he took it as me. It's like playing with a dog too viciously. Now it's like, oh, you want to play. So he goes and wraps his fucking arms around my midsection. It's an in-shape guy. He was maybe 200, 210. I was at that time, that was when I had still been working out pretty routinely. And so I was about 270. And I'm 6'4". And he grabs around the middle of my body. I sit down with him on me and basically slam his body into the ground because my weight just pulled him down because he had a tight grip. So I hear his face just smack on the concrete, and then I turn around and have my hand
it's like
up.
A sprawl,
I'm ready to fucking crack this dude's teeth in. And then all of a sudden everyone's grabbing me like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, what? You saw it. He just tried to grab me and pull me down. And they're like, he was playing. I'm like, I didn't know that. I was looking in another direction, and a fucking arm grabbed around my stomach. I went with the reaction that made sense to me.
Yeah.
But I was
people that get too familiar.
And when you're big, too, sometimes, I know Patty and Marlon, I know you've dealt with this, where people... And so before I was into music, my whole job, I had a gym for a good long while in West Palm, and I competed in kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and I ended my career in mixed martial arts. That was my whole gig, right? But you have other friends outside of that world who think it's okay to do certain things because that's your job.
Because we're big.
And being big amplifies that. And they want to, just because, like I know Marlon, you train kickboxing, just because maybe somebody knows you do that, they think they can fuck around in a certain way. And I had a gym at the time. I was in my early 20s. I had probably my mid 20s actually. I had just had brain surgery. I had just had to stop fighting, and I had a gym that I was partnered in, and I moved into a place with a guy that I had been friends with in high school, and he was kind of a skinny guy in high school, tall but skinny, and my best friend Tom also had moved in with us, so we were like a trio. It was like really fun time, but he had filled out a lot since high school, and he was like upwards of 260 pounds, and 6'2", 6'3", and I'm 6'1", 6'2", and at the time I was probably about 265, 270, walking around probably like 325 right now with the quarantine weight on for sure. And so, what do you call it? Right, there's a quarantine weight. And so he got hammered on a handle one night and fucking wanted to like play fight in the front yard. They were like moving some earth off the septic tank to do something to it, so there was a giant mound of dirt in the front yard. And we're hanging out, smoking joints, having drinks as you would end any weekend night. And this motherfucker decides to jump on my back and start like a wrestle. And I treated myself. That's the best way I can put it. I kept putting him in shit over and over again, like, I'll do a standing Kimura, I'll choke him out real quick, and then wake him right back up. And like, for a good 45 minutes of him being just hammered and keep coming, I would like, all right, this time I'll try this judo throw we were working on. Bam! Fucking all this shit. And the next day, I remember like, he crawls into the house after we fuck around and wrestle. I go take a shower because we're like all fucking dirty fucking around with him. And he's laying on the terrazzo floor, those classic Florida old school houses, the terrazzo floor. And he's laying on the terrazzo floor when I go to bed. And I'm like, you sure, all right, buddy? He's like, yeah, I just drank too much. And I wake up in the morning, and he's now on the couch with just huge bags of ice all over him. And his elbow is super swollen and shit. And I just remember being like, oh, it was just so satisfying to kind of like take it out on him a little bit. Just a little bit. It's one of those things I think that's like, they say every size, every build has its fucking perks and its disadvantages. It's one of those things where people think, sometimes a girl just punched the shit out of you and you're like, damn, you hit me hard as fuck. What the fuck was that about? Like, you're big. You're like, no, but I still feel.
Yeah, I still have nerves.
Right?
But that's one thing I love about doing the Muay Thai and stuff. Because I think, like, even though we're big dudes and we get, like, people fucking with us sometimes or whatever else, when they do start something and you can't, like, it, after you've gone, look, mate, I'm not trying, blah, 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 my bad, whatever. Yeah. But then when they go over that, you're like, oh.
Okay.
There's something, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's a primal thing or whatever, but there's something that just kind of clicks.
Absolutely.
You gave them the 18 or older warning when they went to the website. You're like,
Oh,
warning,
gonna,
you are about to enter a zone.
Yeah.
Especially if you got brothers and stuff like that, and
Yes.
they're just fighting and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, me and my brother used to fight like we were strangers on the street. Like, we would fuck each other up. And it's like, that's one thing out here. There's been a couple of people that have tried to step to me like that, and it's like, I'll always, because there's no way I can, for me, I've got like plans on doing big shit. So it's like, I can't get a criminal record.
Yeah, you're not putting yourself in a bad position.
I'm not putting myself in a, if I could get out of it, I'm not trying to put myself in that position. But when you get the odd ones that are just like, oh, okay, you're not listening? All right, I'm going to fucking enjoy
Dude.
this. You know what I mean? Like,
My thing, I'm fucking 33, I'm out of shape, or 32, I'm out of shape. I fucking been in fights. I don't like to do it. I talk things out when I bounce. You guys see me bounce. I don't fight you. I don't fight people. I'm like, all right, let's calm down. You go outside, you know.
My favorite jobs ever, Pat, was you, me, Michael, and Werkel at the fucking Stitches show. That was one of the most fun, weird nights.
Piece of shit. Stitches is a piece of shit.
When that
on top of Doc Antle, I want an internet recorded that I want to fight Stitches too. I want to fight Doc Antle and Stitches in a double event card.
Clip it
People
together.
book the room.
Clip it together.
I like our odds in that one. I'll be your tag team partner in that one.
So anyway, yeah, like I don't want to fight. So I do the same thing like Mars was talking about. I'm like, no, we don't. It's fine. You know, I'll walk this way. You're tougher than me. Good for you.
Yeah.
But when they push the issue, when they're just, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
There's no other way out of this.
Right.
And I'm not gonna at my age now, I'm not gonna fight you to prove something.
No,
if you have given me no other option, I'm like, all right, well the only way I'm leaving this is if you're fucking unconscious or worse. So that's on you.
The consequences are so dire, and we don't think about that. I got a lot of friends who have like real issues, recurring health issues, just because they were avid boxers in their 20s or whatever. Like myself, I deal with migraines on a regular basis. I had to have brain surgery when I was in my late 20s. It changes the way that you think. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that come with it, and people don't account for what. That was like the main problem that I had with all that punching Nazi. It's like, yeah, man, I don't dig Nazis. I don't want anybody to be that way. But it's like, there's a lot of laymen when it comes to violence.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that's what you are, leave it for someone else, and don't promote that shit if you don't understand what it means, because you knock knuckles against somebody's head and their head hits the pavement and they don't wake back up. You've changed not only your life, the lives of them, their family, your family. There's a domino effect of violence.
I've got a couple of friends that got murder charges just from that.
Absolutely.
Just in the pubs, just having a fight.
And they ruin not only their own lives, but so many in the domino. Your mother doesn't deserve for you to be locked up because you hit a guy who's got a scumbag point of view. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's why I look at guys like that blues player fella who goes and talks to these Klan members.
Wait, that's what Marlon unfriended me for. He did the punch a Nazi meme, and I was like, all the things.
Now,
but let me just put on record though. Nazis need to be punched in the fucking face.
I'm also going to back this play, especially from my point of view, as once again we go back to how porcelain I am.
You push some Nazi shit around me, I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
So
I don't care. Like in the day and age we're in now, knowing all the things we know about the entire basis of that movement, if you're still like, well, I'm going to go out because I support it, then I'm also going to support my right to end your night out. I'll end your night out.
You guys are saying two different things. Though you're like, I'm going to go find them when they're marching and punch them. And Marlon, you were saying, like, if you're going to do that shit around me, I'm going to punch you. Like, right? Look, I mean, I don't know.
Well, Well, I mean, if you want to be specific, like,
I'm not going to go out.
Am I going to hunt down Nazis? No, I'm not going to do that. But
I'm not Inglourious Basterds. I'm not going to chase you down to your house.
You're going to do some stupid shit or have some fucking stupid tattoos or whatever else.
Now, I don't have a problem with you seeing somebody who's at a march and telling them that they're a piece of shit and telling them that they're an asshole. I have a problem with somebody promoting an idea that some 20-year-old kid is going to go sock somebody in the head and end their own fucking life because that's the issue that I have with that mentality.
The people
it has nothing to do with these people being not. Because honestly, if you're a 50-year-old dude, right, and you want to go to a Nazi rally and light a bunch of Nazis up with fucking automatic weapon fire, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I really don't give a fuck. It's the
life
same
is
thing if you
over
want to
already.
go do that to religious zealots in the Middle East or to Dagestani or Russian dudes who who persecuted Jews after World War II. Like anybody who's a piece of shit group who's killing people, the Hutus killing the Tutsis, you want to go ice a bunch of them? I'm cool with it. My issue is promotion of the idea that we should normalize that kind of violence amongst our young people who are looking to us. We're dudes in our 30s approaching our 40s, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's people who are 20 years old who look at us like big brothers and so on and so forth.
And those
and
are
I
the
think that
people
it's
that
our
are
responsibility
those are the
to
people
further
that are doing
educate
it.
them. Exactly, and to say, Nazis are scumbags, and if a Nazi confronts you and tries to hurt you, fucking treat yourself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but okay.
Yeah.
With what you're saying, right?
That's
Most
my
people- wait.
real true concern is people
Well,
giving away their
the
life
thing
to
is,
sock
but
some
I think-
idiot.
I get what you're saying, but I think where you're getting it wrong is that, look, if some Nazi parade was coming down where I live, guess what? You're getting hit with bricks and I'm fucking you up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't give a
No,
fuck.
that's yeah.
I don't care if there's 1, 2.
But the people that are
I am
going
hitting
and
you
doing it
But that's what I'm
are
saying. A lot
looking
of these guys,
for it.
I don't think most people. I don't think anyone with any mental capacity is going to places where there's going to be Nazis there. Yeah.
But
I think
those
you're
are-
overestimating
no,
the
those are
population.
those are the
those
only
Nazi
people.
Rallies, but the Nazi rallies are in places that nobody wants them there. Nobody wants them
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
And I say spit on them, piss on them.
Dude,
So
that was the
people are
whole
going to
thing.
fight them.
Well, the whole
But
thing
people are going to
was-
fight them, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants them there. So
Before-
of course people are going to...
Before people were trying to normalize violence towards them, that's what everybody did. Like I remember.
But if you don't normalize violence towards them, they're going to
No.
normalize violence towards you.
No. Check this out. So
You know
there's
what I mean?
actual,
Like-
but there's actual statistics on this where like before people were normalizing violence against them, their numbers were actually going down, and the numbers of rallies were actually going down because when they would go out, people wouldn't be violent towards them. Like I remember growing up in California when like that shit would come to town, like the high school kids that would usually beat us up, they're like, "Come on, go help us go pick up a bunch of dog shit. We're gonna throw dog shit at Nazis," and we're like, "Oh, that's cool." So like when we'd fill like piss balloons and shit, like we would do that, and they would leave and never come back. Like, you know, like and like normalizing like ostracizing them as opposed to like when you
Marginalizing them.
yeah when you
Are you
when
not
you-
doing that by throwing dumb shit at them?
no when you well yeah no what yeah exactly when you throw dumb shit on them, that's fine, like when like because you're not actually like assault when you assault them, then they have a case against you, which is dumb. And then it's not even that they're right, it's just when they bring up that case to young impressionable people that are susceptible to being like in that group, so they're like, look at that, I didn't even throw a punch, they're the ones that are violent. Like they have a weak leg to stand on, but to the people that they target, which are like the white kid that grows up in the black neighborhood that gets beat up mostly because he's white kind of thing, you know, that's the kid that they're pulling now, and they're pulling more of that, you know.
Well, also
and
they,
it's
they
because
target the rural kid in the neighborhood
who doesn't know what a black kid, who's
who's
never seen a black person, like, and that's an easier leg for them to stand on, because what's normalized in like modern black culture is like the hip hop scene, like that type of stuff is like more violent type stuff, like violence and drug use, right? And when you talk to the rural kid, right, that's never seen a black person in real life, that's all they see. And then this guy, this white supremacist Nazi, comes up to you and he's like, yeah, like people that support them hit me, or they hit me, and I'm not doing anything. Like, that's what I'm saying. Whereas if like they were coming to them and they're like, everywhere I go, man, people throw piss and shit on me, I'd be like, well, I mean, like if that guy came up to me like in that situation, like a young impressionable situation, like if he said like, oh no, these people hit me, they assault me, I'd be like, that's fucked up, right? But if I'm young and I'm like, I'm like, why are they throwing piss and shit on you? And then that gets me to explain.
But the
their
problem
dumb
is if you
idea.
give them an inch, them an inch of acceptance, they're going to grow it into a mile.
No, that's what punching
And
them
I don't disagree with that either.
punching them is giving them, like I said, a leg to stand
That's
on.
what I mean.
Like, you can't.
It's also, but you could also look at it as the reason they're standing out now is because it's the last gasp of they're realizing that their words are having less and less effect. Like this new generation, the kids who are in high school now, you're going to see the lowest percentage in the history of America.
They also have
that
the
will
highest
actually,
IQ in the history of the world, like in the
Yeah.
history of the world ever.
and
they
it's
don't-
also because
yeah.
they're seeing that, oh my God, these Nazis are coming back because they recognize that they can't hook kids anymore. So that's why you're seeing
They're
more of them because they're
targeting-
hooking the people they can get. So
Well,
that's
yeah.
why if I see one,
You know,
I'll hit. It is still
I
swing
think a
on
lot
sight.
of it goes back to. I think a lot of it goes back to. It's hard to preach compassion, and
I don't give
also say
Nazis and compassion don't belong in the same sentence.
well, and also say you got to look at. I think each situation and circumstance, man. There's a lot of young, dumb, fucking idiots out there, man. And I feel for those kids who get pulled up. Like, so I lived in Texas for a while, and it's definitely the place that I experienced seeing like systematic racism. I worked for the Department of Corrections briefly, and I saw that black and Latino people getting the same charges as some of the white kids. They just got more time. It was just every time. Like working intake, you'd see people coming in for the same amount of weed per gram, right? And it's just a different charge every fucking time, over and over and over and over and over again. And I left that field entirely as a result of that, right?
Okay.
And what I noticed about that place, Dallas-Fort Worth, where I was at in Fossil Creek, super segregated. Everybody lives with their own people. And I met a kid through like a weed connect, and we became buddies, and he came out to my wedding. And he's still friends with me on Facebook and shit. I hope he sees this and he's doing good. We picked him up from the airport, me and my guitar player in my band FLA at the time. And we drove to Miramar, where my brother lived, and my stepbrother. And we went to hang out with a bunch of our friends. Like, my family's Cuban. My stepbrother's family is, they're white. And our neighbor was from the Bahamas, and one of my brother's best friends is Jamaican, and he was there, and
Standard
there's a dude
Florida
that
neighborhood.
everybody called, standard Florida crew. There's
Yeah.
a dude named Chinaman that everybody called Chinaman, but he's Filipino or whatever. Like, there's just an eclectic,
That's my
normal
life.
South
Go
Florida neighborhood, right? Yeah. Well, when you're in a Latin community and you're Asian, you're Chinese.
Chino.
They
Yeah,
don't,
that's it.
they don't, yeah, they
Chino.
don't distinguish. And so Jeff, the dude who's there, was like really looked strange. He looked odd, and I was like, what's up, man? And he's just like, I just never been around this many different kind of people before. It's just so crazy. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I knew you were Cuban, but like, you look like me and shit. And he's like, I just never hung around. He's like, I never met a Haitian person. I never met a Jamaican person. And that's who I think of. I think of a kid who got grabbed and pulled into the wrong friend group when he's that young and that impressionable and that under-socialized. And then he goes out there and he thinks these are his friends, and he gets socked in the teeth, and his life gets changed and his face gets changed, and then he really hates people.
Yeah.
And goes like, I really hate these
You're
motherfuckers
reinforcing.
now. That's
you're
the
reinforcing
perspective.
the dumb
Because
idea.
I hung out with a lot of kids who went and did thug shit and got locked up or went into the military, and I see that as a similar kind of thing. Like, you get pulled into a gang either fucking way. And like, I was lucky I had combat sports, and that was the gang I got pulled into. You know what I mean? That was the group that I found. I think of that fucking stupid kid, because I was stupid as shit. You know what I'm saying? I was a dumb bully. And I think of that kid who doesn't know any goddamn better.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like,
I see what you mean, but the thing is, I don't see those.
'Cause I
Okay,
think those
when I
kids
see
are the
them,
kids we
and
can
when I
get
do see
back.
them out, I see dudes
older
our
guys.
ages and older.
Yeah.
That's the majority of that
And
crowd
here's-
that I see.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, like, but the people
I never
that
seen
get.
like a Nazi rally in my life.
But
so
here's
I
the
don't
thing:
fu-
the
you know what I mean?
people that get hit are the young kids. like it's Richard Spencer, right? And then
The
like the
Vaughns.
young kids hitting the other young kids, right?
Man, I love that video of Richard
Yeah.
Spencer getting hit.
You know what's fucked up about Richard Spencer? He's a fucking idiot, but he's not even like the worst person that they could have.
Isn't he like a dude who's
hit
trying
there.
really hard not to be gay by being racist?
No, he's
Isn't
No,
that like
that's
his-
that's the one with the Greek last name.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, no, that guy's
yeah.
trying to be gay. That guy's
No, he
super
is
gay.
gay.
He is
That
gay.
guy's married to a dude. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
No, there's a guy who.
Milo.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
married to-
I know, yeah. Hey, he's got a black boyfriend as well.
Yeah, his husband.
That's
yeah.
his husband. Yeah, but no, like But like Richard
He's
Spencer
just like a
wasn't
provocateur,
even.
that guy.
He wasn't even like the worst one that was there. Like he was. Like it was so like he was literally his group wasn't even there. Like and like it's the same thing when like they call him onto like CNN to like agree that somebody is like racist. He's like, no, these people aren't racist enough, or like,
Well, like,
or these people are too racist. I don't.
But you know
he's
what?
like, I don't hate these people. I just want
All
to live
these
in only
people-
white people stuff. And I'm like, that's still fucking stupid. But that guy's like not a Nazi. Like
But
a
all
Nazi,
these people-
like, it's dumb. Like, I understand. Like he's a fucking piece of shit. But
But
like
all these people who
his
cause all
his
this
he wasn't
divisiveness.
the person that hit him could have hit literal Nazis one block away. They could have hit literal KKK people one block
but
away. But they hit the guy.
But he's
they
still
hit the
giving
guy.
those
Yeah,
guys a
yeah.
voice. He's still
And
giving
again,
those guys
no,
an
like,
acceptable
He
voice.
was
What I'm
literally
saying
in the
too
middle
is
of
all
saying
these
that he
people-
doesn't agree with them and then gets hit.
No,
Like it's crazy.
He's saying that then.
No, no,
But
I'm
he's
saying-
also on the
but-
same
but-
fucking stand as David
Yeah.
Duke.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like I'm not like when you hit the person, right? They're hitting indiscriminately. Like go hit the Nazi on camera. Go hit the old
I will
KKK.
hit both.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will punch
Yeah, but I
Richard
think it's
Spencer
like-
reasonable to think they
I-
did target that guy.
Yeah.
So I've got two
Yeah.
hands.
And it does not
I'm not
matter
defend-
who's-
And here's the
I
thing,
know
like
you're not, but
Yeah,
it
thank
doesn't
you, yeah.
matter whether it's the person speaking. If you're there, whether you're curious or just whatever, you're gonna get punched in the fucking face, and so you should, because you're there.
Yeah, but I don't even agree with that, dude, because
you're there. Like,
That's-
what if you
and
walk out of your work and you're like, what the fuck is this? And you're white and somebody just
But
pastes
that
you.
isn't. That's not that. That's not.
That he's not talking about that. Some guy's not going to wander out and be like,
yeah.
"Well, gosh, what's going on here?"
But, you know,
see,
people
you
do
see
like
the
to watch
SWAT
a train
triggers
wreck.
and shit. You go the opposite way.
But
People
people do
hit
like to
it,
watch
like-
a train wreck. Come on.
the
People,
reason
people
why
look at a
I
car
would
crash.
go there is to like listen to their bullshit and then just
I
be
would
like,
like to
this
see
is
that.
I don't
fucking
need. I
dumb.
would not. I couldn't
No,
hear
no.
it. I can't hear
And
that.
like this
And
is fucking stupid.
I
You know?
agree. Be there if that's the case, but don't be surprised if you get punched in the fucking face for being there.
Yeah.
I don't know,
That's
man.
it.
I don't know, man.
That's
I
it.
think
Like,
that's
if you want to hear that, if you want
I
to
don't-
hear some stupid racist shit, then there must be a reason why you want to hear it.
no. You like listen. This is why
Yeah,
I
I
want to
mean-
hear it, and this is why I want to hear it, and why I want to go to those things, so I know who to not fucking hang out with. You know what I mean? Because
Well,
there's
you
like
already-
I can tell. They make it so obvious.
Yeah,
now.
they-
They're
no.
wearing bands and they're fucking.
Yeah.
They've got a shirt on,
No.
and as soon as they open their fucking mouth, if they're
You're
looking at
talking-
Marlon, I'm gonna know.
no, you're
what they're
talking. You're
thinking.
talking. No,
Yeah.
you're talking about 50 people at like a 200-person rally, and then like the other 150 people are like just in plain clothes. I want to know who those motherfuckers are.
But I'm see.
So
I'm
I don't
see. You see,
fucking
the way I'm looking at it, you and I are looking at it in two different ways.
yeah.
And sometimes we're never going to see eye to eye on
That's
Right.
fine. Yeah.
you know, and that's fine. But from my perspective, where I see it, if you're at this event, walking in the same direction as them, because and you're in a white T-shirt and blue jeans,
Yeah.
and you don't have an armband on you, but you are next to a guy who has an armband and a fucking sign, and you're not like licking him off, trying to reason with him, trying to do something that I can recognize because I'm not
Yeah.
an attack dog.
Oh,
I don't
right.
I don't
Well,
go out with my teeth out.
You're not
I'm going to
the
observe.
one, bro. But you're not the one that's gonna. That's what I'm saying. Like
Right, you
the
can't afford
person that
everyone that level of acuity.
the person that goes out and does that is the person that's just gonna go into the crowd and start swinging on anybody. Like
And
I
you
could
know what?
literally
And
be
that's
standing next
them.
to them. I could literally be standing next to the guy going like.
And
"This
in
is
fairness,
stupid,"
in fairness to
right?
both
and
arguments,
I would get
right?
hit. Like I don't think like.
But in
That's-
fairness to both arguments, there's also the guy who's randomly sucker punching people at a concert or headhunting at a hardcore show.
Yeah, and
because they want to hit.
Here's my
somebody.
whole
So
thing.
it's
If
fuck
you're at a
that guy
Nazi rally,
too.
you're
Like-
in a fucking pit, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, without
You're,
doubt.
You-
it's
you
the
put
same
yourself
thing.
in
You're
a
standing in a
dangerous place.
region
Yeah.
of violence.
Right.
Agreed.
You're not going to. No one's going to a
100%
Nazi
agree.
rally and being like, you know what? All right.
Honestly,
I'll
it's the
sit
same
down.
thing. It's the same thing to me if you were with Black Israelites or if you're with any group that promotes
Right.
Yeah.
supremacy
Yeah.
or hatred.
Yeah.
Any supremacy of any kind.
100%
You're in-
fair. Because if you're there and a bomb goes off because another group that they're having a thing with does that shit, you recognize that that's a group that's involved in terrorism.
We've already
You know what?
we've already discussed earlier that hate is not
100%.
exclusive to any
Yeah.
particular
100%.
group.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And,
So-
but you got to even look at their history of like the Nazis. They're the fucking Nazis. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It's like.
No, I'm married
yeah,
to it
it's
too,
like-
dude. You can't. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
go any further than
great
that.
And once
fucking
again-
grandparents fight against these cunts. Like,
So,
really? Like,
Here's my best argument against hitting them. Like, and people,
I can't agree with that.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm gonna hit them every
No,
single time.
here's my thing. Like, Andrew brought him up for a second. Fuck, I always forget his name. He's like my favorite guy on the planet. The guy that converts Klansmen.
Oh,
Daryl.
No,
Dude.
Is it Daryl something? That guy's tremendous.
So
that guy's
like,
amazing.
Like everybody talks shit. They're like, he's only converted 200 Klansmen, right? I'm like, but what if instead of like hitting them, if everybody took his approach, like 100 people times 200, right? And then 1,000 people times 200, and you figure that he just pressed the camera button for a second, yeah, and you figure like the population of like open white supremacists, right? Like active recruiting and like marching and all that shit is only maybe 1 million people. So then so whatever that is divided by 200, if that many people went out and actively were just like befriending with the intent to convert, then they would just be gone, and it would be such a small part of the population of people that still can't get over that it wouldn't even.
Not everybody has the patience of a guy like that. That's a special.
But okay, so there's 25,000 people in the nation that have the patience of him. You can say that, which is the exact math
there's
to
only
get
so much
that.
shit I'm going to be able to listen to.
Yeah, but that's the exact math to get rid of them, like with love.
Listen, though, he didn't go out to actively convert them.
No, he went out to befriend. To befriend them, to be friends with them.
No, he went out to interview them and write a book.
The first guy,
yeah. The first guy, and then after that,
the guy, the black guy that you're talking about.
Yeah, the first guy.
You're talking about the first guy that he.
Yeah, but he didn't. But he. I don't know. From the interviews that I've watched of him, he's never said exclusively that he went out of his way to convert them.
No,
they literally converted themselves. They literally understood that it was stupid.
Well,
that's what he said.
His mentality was just to befriend them, I guess.
Exactly.
I would love if that was the world we lived in. I would love.
Yeah. It is the world. Happen. No, it is the world we live in.
It's not because for that 200, there's still the 1,000 that are not gonna do it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Because he's one person doing it. What if? Like I said,
I'm not talking about the people who aren't willing to convert. I'm talking about the people he could talk to for 10 years, and they won't change their mind.
But he hasn't really come across that.
But I think it's also important to recognize there's a lot of bodies buried in Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, and places like that tried to reach out with love to racist organizations and ended up in cornfields and shit. Yeah. And I think we can't overlook, just like what we were just saying, and the point you guys brought up, where if you're at a Nazi rally, you're in a zone of violence, is such a salient point. It's so hard to argue with, because if you were at any extremist event, you're in a place for danger. You're in a place where there's a potentiality for danger. And the same thing with a guy like the Daryl guy. I wish I remembered his last name. With a guy like him, he took great pains to put himself in danger, to take that step, to even if he was just interviewing these individuals as a black man, interviewing people in these groups.
Daryl Davis.
Okay? Daryl Davis. Yeah. And to take that step to do that, not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's responsibility to put themselves in the line of danger to try and change someone else's perspective. Us here having this conversation as friends and having a spirited disagreement is so different than going up to strangers and expecting them to maintain your safety when they're part of an organization that's whole philosophy is that you're not a human being. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not a responsibility we can expect everybody to take.
And I guess I kind of relate to him, because like when he was talking about the first time that he experienced racism, because like he grew up abroad, right? And then he came back to America, where like didn't matter what color you were, like everybody was the same. Like was my experience, right? Like the first time I actually met a real racist person that wasn't like, like somebody like telling some stupid joke and everybody's like, yeah, that's dumb, whatever, right? Somebody that like actually believed that shit, I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is real. Like the same way, like when I like spent a summer in Southern California, I'm like, oh shit, people really like are like they are on TV, like this, like I had that's why I connect with them so much on.
There's
that
a lot of people isolated like that.
Everybody was the same.
But let me ask you this question: when you first experienced racism, like that person said something really bad or whatever, do you not think that person deserved to get punched in the fucking face?
No, I was just like, I never want to talk to you again, and I just removed myself
And
from the
that's
situation.
you have a different mentality than
Yeah.
Marlon and I do when it comes to that.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, real quick, not to interrupt,
No.
I have to tee up.
Yeah. Same.
Okay.
I have to do the same.
Yeah, my apologies.
No.
no,
This was
no.
a great chat,
we
guys.
went 4 hours
I
in.
loved every second. Yeah, we
Yeah.
went deep as fuck.
Yeah.
You could split this
This is
into
the
2
longest one so
episodes.
far.
Yeah,
for
We'll
real.
have to do a third one for this. This is great,
Real
guys.
quick,
I
real
loved
quick,
every second.
We have a Patreon now, and we have
Yes.
T-shirts for sale.
Yes.
If you guys want to plug something, go ahead and do it real quick.
Yeah, please.
Patrick?
Please plug everything.
The Basement Presents.
Yes.
Check out my the Facebook and Instagram and.
He's going to
webpage.
send me a link for everything so I can put
Yeah,
that
send
on the
links
page,
to
too. Yeah.
Novaloza.
Yes.
Yeah, Instagram at the Urbane Sasquatch. Got some shows probably coming when world is normalized again. Some sketch shows coming to Lake Worth. Doing some stuff online hopefully soon. I will keep you guys posted about anything
Yeah,
y'all can plug.
I would love to help with that as well,
Yeah.
Patrick.
Yeah, we'll
So-
make some shit happen. Guys, it was great talking with everybody.
I love you,
Very
boys.
enjoyable.
Everybody stay
Alright.
You
safe
guys are awesome.
and stay healthy.
Bye.
This was a great
Alright.
conversation.
Peace
This was a
out, Girl
great evening.
Scouts.
Thanks for joining us.
Mwah.
See you
Kisses.
later. Thank
Be
you.
good.
Yeah. That was fun.
That was great fun. Great chat. Everybody lively.